Chapter 696. A group of griffins. The moment Zhuowen stopped, Luo Xing and Clear Lotus stopped as well. Their faces were filled with vigilance. Their five senses were far inferior to Zhuowen's. Although they did not discover anything unusual, they still trusted their senses. Rustle! A strange voice suddenly sounded. Soon after, this voice was infinitely amplified and resounded in the ears of the three of them like thunder. Immediately, the Zhuowen trio were shocked to discover that a densely packed group of figures were surging over from 5 kilometers away. At a glance, it was like a black cloud was pressing down, blotting out the sun. There were so many of them that it almost exceeded the expectations of Zhuowen and the others. Zhuowen and the others also clearly saw the true appearance of these black figures. They had the head of a bird, the body of a lion, the tail of a snake, and a pair of bat-like wings on their backs. They looked rather sinister and terrifying. These were the griffins that Yu Wufang had mentioned before. Originally, Zhuowen did not pay much attention to the griffins. According to Yu Wufang's introduction, the strength of the griffins was generally not high. They were usually around the Earth King stage, with the higher levels being the Heavenly King stage. There had never been any that surpassed the Ultimate Emperor stage. It was precisely because of the griffins' low strength that Zhuowen did not place them in his eyes. However, the scene before his eyes completely dispelled the carelessness in Zhuowen's heart. The strength of the griffins was indeed not strong. However, the sheer number of them caused Zhuowen and the other two to involuntarily inhale a breath of cool air. As far as the eye could see, the surroundings were basically filled with griffins. There seemed to be tens of thousands of them. There were so many that even Zhuowen did not know the exact number of griffins. Run! There are too many of them. Zhuowen's expression changed drastically. He roared and led Luo Xing and Clear Lotus to flee downwards. With so many griffins, even Zhuowen did not dare to face them head-on. Luo Xing and Clear Lotus' expressions were ugly as well. They hurriedly set up defensive soul treasures around them and used their movement techniques to rush downwards as quickly as possible. Ao. The gazes of the griffins were extremely sharp, and they'd noticed Zhuowen's group of 3 long ago. At this moment, when they saw Zhuowen's group of 3 actually intended to flee, all of them roared out one after another, and they spread their wings and suddenly swooped down. They were densely packed like enormous black dragons that were spiraling in the clouds and mist. The griffins were extremely fast. Even though Zhuowen and the others used their movement techniques to the limit, the griffins still closed the distance. Clear Lotus, Luo Xing, you two go first, I'll block them for a while. Seeing the griffin getting closer and closer, Zhuowen knew that it would not be long before it caught up with the 3 of them. At that time, none of them would be able to escape. Zhuowen, it's even if you want to stop them. You want to escape? Let's escape together, Luo Xing said with a frown, her eyes flickering. That's right, Zhuowen. It's very difficult for you to fend off so many griffins by yourself. It's better if you don't take the risk. Qinglian nodded. No, the 3 of us are too slow. These griffins are originally the overlords of the sky. They're much faster than us. In the end, the 3 of us will be caught. Then, none of us will be able to escape. Let's escape. Zhuowen's voice gradually turned cold. He pushed his right palm, and a gentle force hit the 2 women, causing their speed to increase. In an instant, the distance between them and Zhuowen increased. Zhuowen stopped and faced the sky full of black shadows without fear. The 2 women didn't expect Zhuowen to have such a move. They were involuntarily pushed a few hundred meters forward. Looking at the figure standing under the countless black shadows, the 2 women gritted their teeth and rushed downwards. Zhuowen, you must survive. Ao. The moment Zhuowen stopped, the griffins in the sky took Zhuowen as their target. They directly rushed towards Zhuowen. Their cold, sharp claws released a bone-chilling light in the clouds. With a step, 3 pairs of lightning wings grew out of Zhuowen's back. In an instant, lightning flashed. Zhuowen's entire body turned into a terrifying thunderbolt. His speed soared to the extreme, and he actually dodged the first batch of griffins that arrived. The reason why Zhuowen dared to stay was naturally because of these 3 pairs of lightning wings. After all, this was the lightning 3 wings of the Tempest 6 wings. It had a terrifying speed that no one in the world could match. Even the griffins might not be faster than Zhuowen, with 3 pairs of lightning wings. Zhuowen only needed to delay for a certain amount of time. Naturally, he would be able to rely on the speed of his lightning wings to break through the encirclement of the griffins and successfully leave the rainbow stairway. After dodging the first batch of griffins, the number of griffins behind was even more terrifying. They blocked almost all of Zhuowen's directions, making it impossible for Zhuowen to use the speed of his lightning wings to dodge. A group of beasts actually has a certain level of intelligence. Looking at the surrounding griffins, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. His face revealed a cautious expression. The tyrannical dragon-scale bone spear in his hand was already prepared. Ayo ayo ayo. The griffins in all directions roared and pounced on Zhuowen, who was in the center. In an instant, Zhuowen was attacked from both sides. This spear has a soul. It's called spear intent. Zhuowen no longer held back. With a swing of the bone spear, the spear intent that had reached a higher level burst out. Countless blue water droplets covered Zhuowen's surface. His long black hair, under the contrast of the blue water droplets, actually emitted a demonic blue color. Boom boom boom. His hair fluttered in the wind. Countless spear intent condensed into spear seals, with Zhuowen's body as the center. In an instant, 10,000 spear seals swept out, while Zhuowen stepped on the spear seals and floated in the air. Puchi! Puchi! The terrifying spear intent was extremely powerful. When the outermost griffins came into contact with these spear seals, they directly burst into a bloody mist. Not a single one survived. However, there were too many griffins. Even if these griffins on the periphery died, there was still a large wave of griffins behind. Perhaps because of the death of the outermost griffins, the griffins in the rear were completely stimulated. They actually became even crazier and pounced on Zhuowen. Suddenly, the pressure on Zhuowen became extremely heavy. The spear intent in his hand was displayed to the extreme. Although he could kill many griffins with one blow, the number of griffins was too large. Even if one group died, there would be another. Puchi! Zhuowen was like a perpetual motion machine, constantly waving the bone spear in his hand. The terrifying spear intent was displayed to the extreme. Around Zhuowen's body, a terrifying bloody mist constantly erupted. Zhuowen had almost become a blood man. Damn it! There are so many of them. Zhuowen's face was slightly pale. There was a trace of exhaustion in his eyes. There were too many griffins. It was as if there was an endless number of them. He couldn't kill all of them. There were too many griffins. It was impossible for Zhuowen to guard against all of them. There would always be many fish that escaped the net. They would rush in through the gaps of Zhuowen's attack and directly pounce on Zhuowen's body. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's nirvana of the Great Sun had been promoted to the destruction degree. The strength of his body had even surpassed the strength of an Earth-rank spirit treasure. The griffin's individual strength was too weak. They couldn't break through Zhuowen's body. However, there was a limit to a person's strength. Although Zhuowen's body was strong, he would always feel tired when dealing with so many griffins. If he continued to fight with these griffins, Zhuowen would inevitably die of exhaustion. After half an hour, Zhuowen's movements had become somewhat sluggish. At this moment, Zhuowen was too tired. He was so tired that he didn't want to move. Half an hour should be enough. It's time to leave this place. Looking at the densely packed griffins around him, Zhuowen's face became extremely ugly. There were too many griffins, so many that Zhuowen couldn't help but tremble with fear. Subconsciously, Zhuowen even thought that there was no end to these griffins. Rumble! Stomping his foot, the 3 pairs of lightning wings on Zhuowen's back opened and closed. Terrifying sounds of thunder resounded. Zhuowen turned into a horrifying lightning bolt, wanting to directly plunge towards the bottom of the Duanren border. Ayo ayo ayo! The group of griffins also sensed Zhuowen's intentions, and they all gathered below Zhuowen, completely blocking his path. Damn it! Get lost! Zhuowen shouted loudly. Spear intent was displayed to the extreme. In an instant, the griffins below were stirred into countless blood mists by the power of the spear intent. However, these griffins were indeed closing in on Zhuowen. After one group died, another group came. They actually blocked Zhuowen's path again, determined to make him stay here. Damn it! Looking at the griffins that filled the gap in an instant, Zhuowen's face became extremely ugly. There were too many griffins gathered at the intersection below. If he didn't wipe them all out, Zhuowen wouldn't be able to escape smoothly. However, the power of Zhuowen's spear intent was limited. It was impossible to completely wipe out all the griffins blocking the intersection below. You're the one who forced me to do this. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. He knew that if he wanted to completely wipe out all the griffins blocking the path below, he could only use a powerful move. And Zhuowen's only move with the terrifying group power was the Ice-Fire Lotus that was fused with the Ice-Fire Holy Talisman. Now that I can fuse the 6-colored refining flames, let's try the power of this 6-colored lotus. Licking his somewhat dry lips, Zhuowen's mind moved. The Ice-Fire Holy Talisman on the back of his hands suddenly flickered. Then 6 types of earth fire flew out from his body. Under the effect of the fire fusion art, they fused into a 6-colored refining flame. Once the 6-colored refining flame was formed, Zhuowen summoned the extreme freeze. With a drag of his hands, the two terrifying energies of opposite polarities suddenly merged together. Suddenly, countless sparks flew. A lifelike 6-colored lotus flower lay quietly in Zhuowen's palm. As soon as the 6-colored lotus flower appeared, a terrifying aura flowed out. Then countless griffins below actually showed a rare look of fear. They instinctively felt that the strange lotus flower in Zhuowen's hand was not simple. Don't you like to block the path? Now I'll let you have a taste of this 6-colored lotus flower. With a sneer at the corner of his mouth, Zhuowen swung his right hand. With a whoosh, the 6-colored lotus flower in his palm swept downward and finally blasted into the innumerable griffins below. Boom! Chapter 697. Heart of Darkness. A terrifying explosion occurred, shaking the entire Duanren border. Countless rocks rolled down from the sky. At the same time, blood-curdling screams filled the entire Duanren border. In an instant, under the terrifying explosion, the thick fog in the Duanren border was dispersed. On the 7-colored sky stairway, the cultivators who were rushing to the bottom of the Duanren border with their movement skills also felt the terrifying explosion. What's going on? Why is there such a terrifying explosion in the Duanren border? On the 7-colored sky stairway, countless cultivators were shocked. Then, they saw the fog in the surroundings become thinner. Then, about 100 kilometers below, an extremely strange 6-colored lotus blossomed in the void. The explosive energy had originated from this blossoming lotus. Following the blooming of the 6-colored lotus flower, clouds of blood mist were produced. Only now did the crowd see clearly that below the 6-colored lotus flower, there was actually an endless number of griffins. So many griffins, how can there be so many of them? Looking at the densely packed griffins, the cultivators on the 7-colored sky stairway trembled, their faces pale. They could imagine that if they were to come across so many griffins, they would die without a doubt. However, under the terrifying power of the 6-colored lotus flower, the numerous griffins exploded into clouds of blood mist. Mournful screams resounded in the Duanren border, like the cries of ghosts. Look! Above the 6-colored lotus flower, there's a figure. Suddenly someone exclaimed. After that, everyone's gazes converged below in unison. Sure enough, a figure with disheveled black hair was floating above the 6-colored lotus. If one looked carefully, wasn't this figure Zhuowen? It's actually him. It seems like this terrifying 6-colored lotus flower was released by this person. What a terrifying character. So many griffins couldn't do anything to this person, and their vitality was greatly damaged by this person. Looking at Zhuowen's back and the griffins that had exploded into clouds of blood mist, everyone knew that the only person who could release such a terrifying 6-colored lotus flower was this young man in front of them. Everyone saw the griffins below. They were densely packed and endless. Even an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would be in danger of losing their life if they entered. But this young man in front of them was able to reduce this terrifying griffins to such a sorry state. There was no doubt that this young man's strength was too terrifying. Much more terrifying than an ordinary Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Zhuowen also saw the cultivators rushing over from above, but he didn't pay too much attention to them. With a stomp of his foot, 3 pairs of lightning wings flapped, and his entire body turned into a terrifying bolt of lightning. He shot downwards at an extreme speed, instantly disappearing before everyone's eyes. At the bottom of the Duanren border, there were numerous sharp stone pillars that rose from the ground, resembling broken blades. Around the stone pillar was a vast wasteland. At the end of the wasteland was the exit of the 7-colored heaven stairway. At the exit, Qing Lian and Luo Xing were pacing back and forth worriedly. "Senior sister, will something happen to Zhuowen? There are too many griffins." Although the individual strength of the griffins is not strong, with so many of them, even Zhuowen would find it hard to resist them if they were to join forces. Qing Lian's beautiful eyes were filled with worry. She looked at Luo Xing beside her and spoke worriedly. Luo Xing's expression wasn't too good either. Qing Lian didn't want anything to happen to Zhuowen, but why would she want anything to happen to Zhuowen? Although her face was cold and calm, her heart was as anxious as a frying pan. "Qing Lian, you don't have to worry too much. Zhuowen is very strong, far stronger than the two of us. I think Zhuowen will find a way to escape from the group of griffins." Luo Xing shook his head and smiled bitterly. Just like that, the two of them stood silently at the entrance and waited. An hour later, a voice that sounded like muffled thunder rang out, and then a figure with lightning wings on his back appeared before their eyes. Zhuowen, looking at the figure that suddenly appeared, the two women's eyes revealed joy. At this moment, Zhuowen's figure was in a sorry state. His entire body was dripping with blood, and this blood was the blood of the griffins. As soon as he reached the exit, Zhuowen immediately staggered and collapsed on the ground, panting. There were too many griffins, and Zhuowen was simply too tired to deal with them. Being able to hold on for an hour was already Zhuowen's limit. Fortunately, the 6-colored lotus flower didn't disappoint Zhuowen. It broke through the blockade of the griffins, allowing Zhuowen to successfully break through the encirclement and follow the 7-colored stairway to the exit. "Zhuowen, are you all right?" The two women came to Zhuowen's side and looked worriedly at Zhuowen, who was lying on the ground. Zhuowen was in a very sorry state. It seemed that he had experienced an extremely difficult battle earlier. "I'm fine. The two of you protect me. I need to recover my energy." Waving his hand, Zhuowen sat down cross-legged and began to circulate the origin energy in his body, silently recovering the origin energy in his body that was almost exhausted. The two women nodded and stood on both sides, silently protecting Zhuowen. After around half a day, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, and his gaze flickered with bright lights. Even though the origin energy within his body had been completely exhausted, with the replenishment of the blood devil energy within the devil suppression azure coffin, his speed of recovery was extremely swift. After half a day, many martial warriors appeared at the exit of the 7-colored stairway. However, these martial warriors all stared at Zhuowen and the other two with fear in their eyes, before leaving the wasteland one after another and heading towards the heart of darkness. They had completely witnessed Zhuowen's terrifying strength. They did not dare to provoke such a fiend. Otherwise, their fate would not be any better than Zhou Lifeng and the other two elders. "Have you recovered?" Luo Xing looked at the energetic Zhuowen in amazement. Half a day ago, Zhuowen's exhausted appearance was still fresh in her memory. She did not expect that in just half a day, Zhuowen had actually completely recovered. This recovery speed was really terrifying. "Yes, let's head to the heart of darkness now. I'm afraid we will have a big battle there." Zhuowen nodded and smiled. It is said that the heart of darkness also contains many treasures. Perhaps we will have a lot of gains after entering it. Qing Lian said with anticipation. "Let's go. Only when we reach the heart of darkness will we know whether there are really treasures inside. Moreover, there are only 3 months left in the 1-year period. Now, most of the contestants should have entered the heart of darkness. We must be careful." After saying that, Zhuowen and the other two turned into 3 rays of light and flew towards the wasteland. There was a black fog in the sky in front of them. That black fog was the poisonous fog that lingered around the heart of darkness. At the same time, in 2 other directions of the wasteland, many cultivators appeared. These cultivators' auras were extremely terrifying. They were all ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. The place that led to the Heart of Darkness in Shuiyu was called the Black Iron Forest. It was a dense forest made of black iron. It was also very dangerous, and there were many powerful meta beasts inside. In the Black Iron Forest, two figures walked silently. One of them was dressed in plain clothes and had an ordinary face. The other was dressed in luxurious clothes and was handsome and elegant. The two of them walked slowly. From time to time, black shadows would appear around them. These black shadows were basically the terrifying meta beasts of the Black Iron Forest. However, when these meta beasts came within 10 miles of the two of them, they would explode into a bloody mist. The strength of these two people was extremely terrifying. Along the way, they didn't attack at all. The meta beasts that approached them all exploded into a bloody mist. Huang Fuwuji's eyes focused on Huang Fuwudao, his face filled with awe. In these 3 years, Huang Fuwudao had become even stronger. He couldn't see through him anymore. Second brother. We will soon arrive at the Heart of Darkness. According to His Highness Emperor Qing, there is a lucky chance waiting for the two of us in the Heart of Darkness. I wonder what this lucky chance is. Huang Fuwudao suddenly stopped and turned his head. He stared at Huang Fuwuji, his voice calm and proud. The so-called lucky chance should be obtained by the fated person. This lucky chance still depends on luck. Huang Fuwuji shook his head. That's not right. Lucky chances are not obtained by the fated person, but by the strong. As long as you are strong enough, even if the lucky chance is taken by someone else, as long as you kill that person, you will be able to snatch it away. Huang Fuwudao's voice was as calm as ever, but his words contained a trace of cruelty and coldness. Huang Fuwuji froze. Huang Fuwuji was well aware of Huang Fuwudao's style. His big brother was simply a madman that everyone feared. Thus, he didn't dare to refute him. This was because if Huang Fuwudao went crazy, he might even kill his little brother. This was also the reason why Huang Fuwuji was so afraid of his big brother. Haha, let's go. Once we arrive at the Heart of Darkness, we will know what this lucky chance is. Huang Fuwudao faintly smiled. Then, the two of them slowly walked towards the distant black fog. On the other side of the Black Iron Forest, there were terrifying saber cheese spreading out. All of a sudden, countless meta beasts were sliced into countless pieces of meat. An insolent young man, who was carrying a huge saber on his back, dashed out of the meta beast's encirclement. We've finally left the Black Iron Forest. Once we arrive at the Heart of Darkness, we should be able to see Zhuowen. I wonder if that boy's strength has increased during this time. The youth with the saber, Guosheng, was wrapped in saber energy. He was like a stream of light as he rushed towards the Heart of Darkness. Huang Fuwudao, Huang Fuwuji, Guosheng Grant Baihe Qing Yan, Zhu Bai, Chao Yan Feng Yong, Morong Zhan and Qing Ming. These 10 monstrous geniuses ranked in the top 10 of the Green Emperor list had all arrived at the wasteland and were rushing towards the Heart of Darkness. At the same time, countless geniuses from other counties were standing on the wasteland. As they looked at the black fog that soared into the sky, their eyes were filled with anticipation and battle intent. Everyone knew that once they entered the Heart of Darkness, the real life and death battle would begin. This was a competition between countless geniuses. Every one of them represented the glory of their respective counties. They would gather in the Heart of Darkness and engage in the most intense battle. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Chapter 698. Extreme Purple Icegrass Swoosh. The three figures arrived at the periphery of the black fog in an instant. The black fog covered an extremely large area, and it was not stationary. Instead, it continuously rotated like a hurricane and spiraled upwards. Standing at the periphery of the black fog, Zhuowen and the other two could clearly feel a suction force coming from within the black fog. If they were not powerful enough, they would be torn apart by the suction force after entering the black fog. The Heart of Darkness is within the poisonous fog. It is said that the poisonous fog is extremely poisonous. The two of you should be careful. Zhuowen turned around and instructed Luo Xing and Qing Lian. The two ladies nodded and hurriedly activated the Yuan power in their bodies to form a thick layer of Yuan power barrier on the surface of their bodies. This Yuan power barrier could effectively prevent contact with the outside world. However, It consumed a lot more energy. Zhuan, aren't you going to use any defensive measures? This poisonous fog is not so simple. After the two ladies finished setting up their defensive measures, they realized that Zhuan was indifferent and did not take any action. Their pretty faces revealed a puzzled expression. Zhuan shrugged his shoulders, and a dazzling golden glow was released from his body. It was the nirvana of the great sun. Given his current physical strength, although he was not invulnerable to poison, he could at least resist the poisonous fog for a while. Therefore, he did not need to use his Yuan power barrier. When they saw the golden glow on Zhuan's body, the two ladies knew that Zhuan's physical body was extraordinary. This was evident from the fact that Zhou Lifeng's all-out attack was unable to leave a single mark on Zhuan's body. Therefore, they did not ask for too much. Let's go. As they spoke, the three of them turned into rays of light and entered the poisonous fog. In a few flashes, their figures disappeared. Not long after the three of them entered the black fog, many figures simultaneously swept over from all directions. These figures warily stared at their surroundings, as if they had come to an agreement. They did not engage in a great battle, but instead, all of them unleashed their Yuan power barriers and rushed into the black fog like moths to a flame. The heart of darkness was inside, so there was no need for them to fight outside. That would be unwise. Once he entered the black fog, Zhuan's sharp senses discovered that the surrounding poison fog was just like maggots in a tarsal bone as it surged towards the surface of his skin. However, with the protection of the great nirvana sun, the instant the poison fog reached the surface of Zhuan's body, it was neutralized by the golden glow. With Zhuan's current cultivation and realm, the poisonous fog around the heart of darkness really couldn't cause much harm to Zhuan. Although the poisonous fog couldn't cause any substantial harm to Zhuan, Luo Xing and Qing Lian were much weaker than Zhuan. The poisonous fog posed a much greater threat to them than it did to Zhuan. At this moment, they were following behind Zhuan at an extremely slow pace. Zhuan's eyes flickered. With a flick of his finger, a golden flame shot out from the tip of his finger and circled around the two women. Immediately, it turned into a golden flame armor on their bodies. With the powerful defense of the golden flame armor, the surrounding poisonous fog basically retreated. At this moment, the two women were much more relaxed. There was an additional look of gratitude in their eyes as they looked at Zhuan. At the same time, they were amazed by the power of the golden flame armor that Zhuan had unleashed. In an instant, the three of them sped up and soon reached the end of the black fog. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The three figures suddenly shot out. When they landed, they stood in three different positions and vigilantly scanned their surroundings. What surprised the three of them was that they were in a dense forest. What was even stranger was that the trees in the forest were all dark black, as if they had been splashed with black ink. What a strange forest. Is this the heart of darkness? Staring at the surrounding black trees, Zhuan's eyes revealed an astonished expression. The scene in the heart of darkness was very different from what he had imagined. Moreover, what shocked Zhuan was that this dense forest was extremely strange. His five senses were actually ineffective in this place, and he was completely unable to investigate the situation around him. A strange expression also surfaced on the pretty faces of Qing Lian and Luo Xing. Clearly, they had also discovered that their five senses were completely useless in this dense forest. Let's go. Since our five senses are completely useless, we need to be even more careful. We need to constantly pay attention to our surroundings. After pondering for a moment, Zhuan said in a low voice. The two women nodded and cautiously followed behind Zhuan, constantly paying attention to their surroundings. Very quickly, Zhuan and the other two arrived at a swamp. The swamp in front of them was extremely wide. It was not particularly eye-catching, as it was surrounded by the dense forest. When Zhuan and the other two approached the swamp, a soft voice was immediately heard, causing the three of them to involuntarily stop in their tracks. Luo Xing and Qing Lian looked at Zhuan at the same time, their eyes filled with inquiry. Zhuan made a gesture, and the three of them withdrew their auras and hid in a low shrub. Through the gaps in the shrub, the three of them looked towards the shore of the swamp in front of them. They saw five figures standing on the shore of the swamp. They were 3 men and 2 women. When Zhuowen's gaze focused on the figure of a woman, he could not help but reveal a startled expression. The woman standing at the head of the 5 stood proudly. She had long snow-white hair, snow-white pupils and an ice-cold expression. Wasn't she the number 1 genius of the icebound county, Wen Aoxue? The other 4 stood respectfully behind Wen Aoxue, looking as if they were following Wen Aoxue's lead. They should be the geniuses of the icebound county. Aoxue, the heart of darkness is filled with danger. Not only are there threats from other geniuses, there are also threats from various powerful meta-beasts. The swamp in front of us is so huge. There must be terrifying meta-beasts hidden within. We don't need to take such a big risk for the purple ice grass. Behind Wen Aoxue, a good-looking woman in red with a hot figure suddenly spoke with a tinge of anger on her pretty face. You should know how useful the extreme purple ice grass is to me, right? I have an ice-cold body. With the purple ice grass, my cultivation will be able to advance by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. At that time, I will be able to obtain a good ranking in the ranking competition. It is even possible for me to enter the top 10 of the Green Emperor leaderboard. When Aoxue turned around and coldly stared at the woman in red behind her, her tone was cold and emotionless. When the woman in red heard this, her face froze. She coldly said, "The purple ice grass is something you need. If you want it, go get it yourself. Why do you need us to go? I am the number 1 genius of Icebound County, and I represent the glory of Icebound County. Didn't you say so just now? This swamp is so huge, and there must be many meta-beasts in it. If I am alone, it will be quite difficult for me to successfully obtain the purple ice grass." At this point, when Aoxue meaningfully stared at the 4 people in front of her and continued, "If you guys can cover me from the front, my chances of obtaining the purple ice grass will be much higher. I think that for the glory of Icebound County, you guys should be able to make this sacrifice." When Aoxue said this, the 4 people in red stared angrily at Wen Aoxue. Wen Aoxue's actions were obviously to use them as bait to lure the meta-beasts out of the swamp while she reaped the benefits. To them, this method was simply courting death. Why? Are you not willing? Although I, Wen Aoxue, can't do anything to you guys, if the ranking of Icebound County is affected because of you, I believe that Master will not let you guys off. Even the families behind you will suffer. When Aoxue narrowed her eyes and her voice became increasingly cold, she was actually directly threatening the 4 of them. You win. We are willing to cover you. The expressions of the 4 people in red were extremely ugly. Wen Aoxue's master was the Icebound County Lord, and he was extremely fond of Wen Aoxue. If Wen Aoxue really inverted right and wrong, the Icebound County Lord, Profound Iceman, would very likely lean towards Wen Aoxue's side. At that time, not only would they suffer, even the families behind them would suffer. That's right. If you guys help me obtain the purple ice grass this time, all of you will have done a great service. At that time, I will naturally report this to Master, and all of you will be rewarded. When Aoxue revealed an arc on the corner of her mouth, as she said with a faint smile, "There's no need for rewards, as long as you don't attack our families." The woman in red said coldly. They were very clear about Wen Aoxue's character. This woman was extremely arrogant, condescending, and selfish. Her casual promises were basically short-lived, and it was simply impossible for her to fulfill them. Therefore, the 4 of them did not have any extravagant hopes for the rewards that Wen Aoxue spoke of. As long as she did not attack their families, it would be good enough. If all of you are obedient, I will naturally not speak ill of you in front of my master. Wen Aoxue said indifferently, "Remember what you said." The woman in red took a deep look at Wen Aoxue. She took a step forward and brought the 3 men behind her towards the center of the swamp. In the center of the huge swamp, there was a square-inch piece of land. On this square-inch piece of land, there was a small purple grass growing. The strange thing was that the grass was actually emitting waves of cold air. This small grass was the purple ice grass. It was a peak grade 6 spiritual medicine, and was infinitely close to grade 7 spiritual medicine. It had unimaginable benefits for warriors who practiced cold attribute cultivation methods. When Aoxue's body was naturally cold, and she also practiced cold attribute cultivation methods. To a certain extent, this purple ice grass was extremely suitable for her. Zhuowen and the other two who were hiding in the bushes naturally noticed this scene, especially when they saw Aoshue forcing the geniuses from the same county to pave the way for her as a stepping stone. The three of them revealed strange expressions. Aoshue was the #1 genius of the Frozen Ice County. Not only did she not have the slightest intention of helping the geniuses from the same county, she instead used them as a tool. She did not even hesitate to use threatening methods to force the geniuses from the same county. Zhuowen and the other two despised such methods. At the same time, Aoshue's beautiful face, in the eyes of the three of them, seemed so despicable and ugly at this moment. Purple Ice Grass. Chapter 699. S.S. Strange Fish. The purple polar ice grass was one of the best grade 6 spiritual herbs, and an extremely rare spiritual herb. Zhuowen and the others did not expect to encounter such a rare spiritual herb as soon as they entered the heart of darkness. Zhuowen, this purple polar ice grass is extremely important to senior sister Luoxing. If she obtains it, she will be able to successfully break through to the ultimate six-wheel emperor realm, Qing Lian suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen's gaze involuntarily landed on Luoxing, who was beside him. Sure enough, he saw that Luoxing's originally cold expression was now looking at the extreme purple ice grass with a burning gaze. Forget it. Aoshue is an expert at the peak of the ultimate six-wheel emperor realm, and a monstrous genius ranked 11th on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. Such a genius is not to be trifled with. There is no need for us to provoke such an opponent. Luoxing shook her head. If this purple polar ice grass is really useful to you, I will help you get it, Zhuowen suddenly said firmly. There was no pretense or flattery in his words. It sounded calm and natural when Zhuowen said it. However, Luoxing's heart trembled violently. Although Zhuowen's voice was calm, it meant something else to Luoxing. This purple polar ice grass was obtained by Zhuowen for her. Thinking of this, Luoxing's cold eyes became much gentler. She looked at Zhuowen with a trace of special affection. Zhuowen naturally did not think so much. In his opinion, Luoxing was a genius of Muqing County and his companion. The stronger they were, the more help they would be to him. Let's wait first. The swamp is not simple. After all, such a precious purple polar ice grass should have a corresponding guardian beast, Zhuowen said calmly as his gaze focused on the swamp. The two girls nodded and looked at the swamp at the same time. If they really wanted to obtain the purple polar ice grass, they had to choose the most appropriate time. At this moment, the lady in red led the three men into the swamp at an extremely fast speed. No one knew what dangers were hidden in the swamp, so the four of them could not stay there leisurely. Obtaining the purple polar ice grass as soon as possible was the right thing to do. Extreme purple ice grass. In 10 breaths of time, the four of them appeared in the air above the swamp. The woman in red appeared slightly relaxed. Along the way, they did not encounter the slightest danger. They did not even sense the existence of danger. It seemed that they had been alarmed for nothing. Perhaps there was no danger in the swamp at all. In the air above the square, the woman in red smiled and reached out her right hand. The moment she was about to touch the extreme purple ice grass, an inexplicable sense of danger appeared in her heart. Whoosh! A black shadow suddenly swept out from the water and instantly swept past the right arm of the red-clothed woman. Blood spurted out. The red-clothed woman didn't even have time to react before her right arm disappeared into thin air, leaving behind only gushing blood. Ah, my hand! The woman in red screamed. She held her right arm and retreated dozens of meters. The three men behind her narrowed their eyes and quickly protected the woman in red. Plop! The sound of a heavy object falling into the water was heard. Only then did the four of them see the true face of the black shadow that had flashed out. It was a strange fish that was dozens of feet long and had a mouth full of sharp teeth. The strange fish's surface was covered with silver scales that reflected a glaring light. At this moment, the strange fish was holding a white and tender severed arm in its mouth. The owner of this severed arm was the red-clothed woman. It was this strange fish that had just severed the woman's right arm. The strange fish's crimson eyes stared fiercely at the red-clothed woman. With a bite of its lower jaw, the severed arm was directly swallowed into its stomach. The sound of chewing was very clear above the swamp. Seeing her severed arm being eaten right in front of her, the woman in red's face turned deathly pale. That was her arm, and it was eaten right in front of her eyes. No one would feel good about that kind of feeling. Damn it! I'm going to kill this beast. Looking at the strange fish that was still chewing, the red-clothed woman was so angry that she trembled. Under the effect of Yuan power, her severed arm was no longer bleeding. However, she could not take this lying down. As she spoke, the red-clothed woman instantly rushed out and charged towards the strange fish. With a press of her left hand, a terrifying Yuan power gathered and blasted towards the strange fish below. Roar! The strange fish was not afraid at all. With a shrill cry, it also rushed straight towards the Yuan power palm. Rumble! An explosion sounded. Under the Yuan power palm's attack, the strange fish directly fell into the swamp. However, what surprised the red-clothed woman was that although the strange fish's strength was weak, the scales on its surface were extremely tough. After receiving her full force attack, it was actually not damaged at all. It was lively in the swamp. It opened its mouth that was filled with sharp teeth and roared at the red-clothed woman. Such tough scales. It was actually not damaged after receiving my full force attack. The red-clothed woman looked at the strange fish in astonishment and muttered to herself. However, she did not pay too much attention to it. This strange fish had eaten her right arm and had already made her furious. She must kill this strange fish to vent the hatred in her heart. Swoosh! With a stomp of her foot, the red-clothed woman directly pounced towards the swamp. Her left arm blasted out again, and a terrifying Yuan power gathered. This time, she must completely kill this strange fish. However, when the red-clothed woman approached the swamp, countless black shadows swam at the bottom of the swamp at an extremely fast speed. Roar! A shrill cry sounded out. The strange fish was directly hit by the red-clothed woman. At this moment, the red-clothed woman did not hold back at all and used all her strength. This strange fish's scales were indeed tough, but the red-clothed woman had already dealt a fatal blow. Therefore, the strange fish could only nurse a grievance in the end. After dealing with the strange fish, the red-clothed woman coldly snorted and planned to leave the surface of the swamp. However, when she stepped out of the water, countless splashing sounds suddenly rushed out from the swamp, following which, densely packed black shadows surrounded the red-clothed woman. The countless black shadows were actually those strange fish from before. Their sharp teeth were suffused with countless cold glints in the dark swamp. Ah! The red-clothed woman, who was surrounded by countless strange fish, immediately let out a shrill cry. The ear-piercing chewing sound continuously rang out. In the span of 5 breaths, the red-clothed woman's screams came to an abrupt end, following which, the countless terrifying strange fish fell back into the swamp and disappeared without a trace. Only a bloody skeleton was left on the surface of the water. This skeleton was the red-clothed woman's corpse. Hiss! 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 The 3 men above the swamp all sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw the red-clothed woman's corpse disappear in an instant. Their bodies involuntarily trembled. There were just too many of these strange fish. They were too terrifying. They had actually eaten a person so cleanly in such a short period of time. On the shore, when Aoshua's beautiful eyes narrowed, there was a trace of astonishment in her eyes. These strange fish were not strong, but their teeth were extremely sharp. Even the red-clothed woman, who was at the ultimate emperor realm, had her arm torn off with ease. What are the 3 of you still standing there for? Hurry up and get the extreme violet ice grass. When Aoshua's eyes flickered as she shouted at the 3 men in the sky, her face was filled with coldness and ruthlessness. Hearing this, the 3 men's faces turned extremely ugly. When Aoshua had seen the red-clothed woman's fate, now she was actually asking them to go and get the extreme violet ice grass. This was simply sending them to their deaths. Not going? Then your clans will be finished because of your hesitation. At that time, you will also die. Now I'm giving you a choice. Do you want to die, or do you want your clans to be finished with you? When Aoshua coldly said, "We'll go and get it," gritting their teeth, the three men did not have the slightest strength to resist when Aoshua's threat. They could only sorrowfully follow when Aoshua's orders to harvest the extreme violet ice grass. "That's right. Now go quickly." When Aoshua nodded and sneered, the three men nodded and cautiously approached the area below. They were very clear that there were many of those strange man-eating fish hidden in the swamp. If they got too close to the water surface, they would suffer a calamity. Therefore, if they wanted to harvest the extreme violet ice grass, they had to be faster than the strange fish. Slowly approaching the area, when they were less than 10 meters away, the three men suddenly increased their speed and quickly grabbed the extreme violet ice grass below. Unfortunately, the strange fish below were even faster than them. Countless sounds of water splashing could be heard as a dense swarm of strange fish swept out and surrounded the three men. "Ah! Help! When Aoshua, save us!" Screams could be heard again. However, the three men's combined strength was much stronger than the red-clothed woman's. For a moment, they were able to hold on. However, there were too many strange fish around, and they could not hold on for too long. Therefore, the three men quickly asked When Aoshua for help. 3 pieces of trash. When Aoshua coldly snorted, with a stomp of his foot, his entire body was like a dancing butterfly, as he instantly swept towards the center of the swamp. Seeing When Aoshua rushing towards them, the three men's faces were filled with joy. They knew that with When Aoshua's strength, it would not be difficult for him to save them. Whoosh! Unfortunately, the three men were too naive. When Aoshua directly passed by the three of them and swept towards the area. With a stretch of his jade-like hand, the extreme violet ice grass was immediately in his hand. When Aoshua's originally cold face could not help but reveal a joyful expression. With the extreme violet ice grass, her cultivation would definitely be able to break through to the next level. At that time, she would have more confidence in the Green Emperor ranking battle. When Aoshua, save us! We can't hold on any longer. Within the encirclement of countless strange fish, the three men's eyes were filled with hope. Seeing that When Aoshua had already obtained the extreme violet ice grass, they knew that since When Aoshua had obtained the extreme violet ice grass, it was time for him to help them. 3 pieces of trash. Even if I save you, you will only become a burden to me. You should just die here. When Aoshua shook his head, with a stomp of his jade-like foot, he actually ignored the three men and was about to sweep towards the shore. When Aoshua, we are geniuses from the same county. Furthermore, we are in this predicament because of you. How can you not save us now? Chapter 700. Dejected When Aoshua was too lazy to care about the roars of the three men. Her jade-like feet stepped into the air as she prepared to leave the center of the swamp. Rumble! All of a sudden, the entire swamp began to tremble. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. Water splashed everywhere. Then, an extremely majestic black shadow shot up into the sky from the depths of the swamp. Crash! A pillar of water shot up into the sky and poured down like a storm. Then, a huge black shadow that was hundreds of feet tall appeared on the surface of the swamp. Silver scales and cold, sharp teeth. Wasn't this several hundred feet long black figure an enlarged version of those strange fish? Wah! The gigantic strange fish stared at the extreme purple ice grass in When Aoshua's hand with its scarlet eyes. Its eyes were filled with rage as it roared and charged towards When Aoshua. A terrifying energy exploded out, forming a terrifying water column on the surface of the swamp. Damn it! When Aoshua's pretty face changed drastically when she saw the giant fish swimming towards her. Her jade-like feet repeatedly stepped in the air, and her speed soared to the extreme as she headed towards the shore. The speed of the huge strange fish was extremely fast. In an instant, it was already several feet behind When Aoshua. Its sharp mouth directly bit towards When Aoshua's waist without any mercy. Ask Jing Bingyu. When Aoshua shouted in a tender voice. She extended her slender jade-like hands, and an oval-shaped ice mirror appeared behind her. The cold air was oppressive, and it was bone-chilling. Rumble! Unfortunately, the strength of the huge monster fish was too terrifying. The ice mirror did not hinder the speed of the monster fish at all. It was directly shattered into countless pieces by the monster fish. At this moment, when Ao Shue's expression was extremely unsightly, he flicked his finger and took out a crystal-clear bracelet from his spirit ring. The surface of the bracelet faintly revealed traces of icy coldness. When Ao Shue immediately wore the bracelet on his wrist, instantly, his entire body emitted an endless amount of cold air. The cold air became denser and denser, as if it was roaring crazily like a hurricane. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, 10 thick water pillars rushed out of the swamp. The moment the water pillars came into contact with the cold air, they immediately condensed into thick icicles. Bang! The 10 icicles were extremely tough. When the huge fish that came after them crashed into the icicles, it was actually forced back by the terrifying recoil. The snow jade bracelet is a spirit treasure personally refined by Master. How could a mere beast without intelligence break it? A wisp of a cold smile appeared on the corners of Wen Ao Shue's mouth. She took a step forward and was about to leave this place when the sound of air being torn apart suddenly flashed over from behind, causing Wen Ao Shue's beautiful face to go pale. With a wave of her hand, Wen Ao Shue created an ice mirror in front of her. At that moment, the sound of something breaking through the air arrived as expected and directly bombarded the ice mirror. Only now did Wen Ao Shue discover that on top of the mirror of ice, there was actually a bone spear that was 3 meters long. The sharp tip of the spear was suffused with a dense cold light. This bone spear. Staring at the bone spear in front of the ice mirror, Wen Ao Shue's pupils shrank. She could already guess the identity of the person who attacked. Wen Ao Shue, hand over the extreme purple ice grass. An indifferent voice rang out. A young man with an indifferent expression suddenly appeared in front of the ice mirror. His right hand reached out and grabbed the bone spear that was pressed against the ice mirror. Juan, I was the one who discovered this purple ice grass first. Now you're taking advantage of me. Don't you feel shameless? Wen Ao Shue clenched her silver teeth. Looking at the young man in front of her, her beautiful eyes were filled with fear. Back at the moon-embracing pavilion, Zhuan had struck the morning bell and evening drum 10 times. Even now, the memory was still fresh in her mind. Therefore, she was really afraid of the young man in front of her. Shameless? Wen Ao Shue, why does this sentence sound so unconvincing when it comes from your mouth? When it comes to shamelessness, I shouldn't be able to compare to you. A companion from the same county was used as a stepping stone by you. Moreover, you didn't save him when he was in danger. Does a scum like you have the right to say that I'm shameless? The corners of Zhuan's mouth curled up slightly. Looking at Wen Ao Shue, his gaze was filled with ridicule. You bastard, what do you want? Wen Ao Shue angrily shouted. I only want the purple ice grass. Hand over the purple ice grass, and I'll let you go. Zhuan stood with his spear and said indifferently, the purple ice grass is too useful to me. I can't agree to that. Wen Ao Shue shook her head. Her beautiful face was filled with coldness, as she decisively refused. If that's the case, then we can only fight. Zhuan coldly snorted. His right hand gripped the handle of the spear. The bone spear was like an electric drill, spinning at high speed. The cold spear tip suddenly swept towards the ice mirror in front of Wen Ao Shue. Kacha! The ice mirror was like a piece of paper. It was directly shattered into countless pieces by the bone spear. The bone spear was like a hot knife through butter as it swept towards Wen Ao Shue's forehead. Zhuan, do you really think I'm afraid of you? You'd better not push me too far. Wen Ao Shue's jade-like feet stepped and instantly dodged Zhuan's spear. Her beautiful face was filled with coldness. Since you're not afraid of me, then come down and fight with me. With a stomp of his foot, a terrifying aura surged out of Zhuan's body. His clothes fluttered, his black hair danced wildly, and his back straightened. At this moment, Zhuan was like an unyielding steel spear. Peak of the ultimate emperor stage? Feeling the powerful aura released by Zhuan, Wen Ao Shue's pupils shrank to the size of needles. She couldn't help but cry out in surprise. She still remembered that when Zhuan had struck the morning bell and evening drum, his cultivation had only been at the initial stage of the ultimate emperor stage. Now, in just a few months, his cultivation had already reached the same level as hers. Both of them had reached the peak of the ultimate emperor stage. Was this guy a freak? How could he improve so quickly? Wen Ao Shui, I've already invited you to fight. Why aren't you getting down here? Or are you afraid? Raising his head slightly, Zhuowen stared at Wen Ao Shui. His voice was like thunder, reverberating above the swamp. Back then, when Zhuowen was only at the initial stage of the ultimate emperor stage, the strength he had displayed was already very terrifying. Now that he had reached the peak of the ultimate emperor stage, his strength was probably even stronger than before. At this moment, Wen Ao Shui hesitated. What? You don't dare to come down? If you don't dare to come down, then I'll go up. Zhuowen smiled coldly. With a stomp of his foot, he instantly appeared in front of Wen Ao Shui. With a flick of his right hand, the bone spear transformed into countless spear shadows that shot towards Wen Ao Shui. World of ice and snow. Wen Ao Shui's expression was gloomy. Her right hand touched her bracelet lightly. Instantly, with her as the center, terrifying cold air gathered again. Countless streams of cold air were released, condensing into walls of ice that were dozens of feet thick. This spear has a soul. It's called Spear Intent. Zhuowen didn't waste any time. He directly used Spear Intent, which he was most adept at. Instantly, countless spear shadows swept out. Accompanied by the shadows, Zhuowen's bone spear pierced forward and slammed into the walls of ice. Boom! The moment the bone spear made contact with the walls of ice, it stopped. However, Zhuowen let out a low growl. The surrounding spear shadows were like countless tadpoles, as they all gathered within the bone spear. All of a sudden, the power of the bone spear reached its peak, releasing a devilish blue color. Crack! Cracks appeared on the surface of the ice wall, which soon became bigger and bigger. In the end, the ice wall directly shattered into countless ice shards. Swoosh! Wen Ao Shui's beautiful eyes were filled with fear. She continuously retreated in the air, as a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of her mouth. This Zhuowen in front of her was extremely powerful. With just one exchange, Wen Ao Shui, was already at an absolute disadvantage. Zhuowen's power didn't decrease at all. He held the bone spear and once again rushed towards Wen Ao Shui with a cold expression. Here's the extreme purple ice grass. Seeing Zhuowen rushing towards her again, Wen Ao Shui gritted her teeth and flicked her finger. She directly threw the extreme purple ice grass to Zhuowen, while Wen Ao Shui quickly retreated towards the other side of the forest. Zhuowen gave her too much pressure. Wen Ao Shui knew that if they continued to fight, she would definitely lose. She might even lose her life. Zhuowen didn't continue to chase after Wen Ao Shui with his right hand. Instead, he carefully observed the extreme purple ice grass in his palm. After confirming that it was real, he nodded and returned to the swamp shore. At this moment, Qing Lian and Luo Xing had already come out and stood on the shore. Just now, Zhuowen and Wen Ao Shui's exchange of blows hadn't been long. The two women had witnessed it, and their faces were filled with shock. Zhuowen's strength was really becoming more and more abnormal. Wen Ao Shui's cultivation was obviously the same as Zhuowen's, but when the two of them fought, Wen Ao Shui was actually at a disadvantage. She was even forced to voluntarily hand over the extreme purple ice grass. Luo Xing, take this extreme purple ice grass. With this, you should be able to smoothly advance to the ultimate six-wheel emperor realm. Zhuowen said with a smile as he tossed the extreme purple ice grass to Luo Xing with his right hand. Zhuowen, thank you so much. Luo Xing's face was filled with joy as she received the extreme purple ice grass. She looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of gratitude. We're from the same county. It's only right that we help each other. Zhuowen waved his hand. Luo Xing's beautiful eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of sadness when she heard this. She sighed silently in her heart. Is it only because we're from the same county? Let's go. We shouldn't stay here for too long. The battle just now may have attracted the attention of other cultivators nearby. Let's leave this place. Luo Xing needs to refine the extreme purple ice grass. We need to find a quiet place. The two women didn't object. They nodded and quickly left the swamp with Zhuowen. Not long after the three of them left, many figures rushed out of the dense forest. There were at least 20 people. These people looked at the swamp that had regained its peace with puzzlement. After they didn't discover anything, These people vigilantly stared at the others around them. Their eyes flashed and their faces contained a faint killing intent. There were only 100 spots on the Green Emperor list. If one wanted to obtain a spot, they had to obtain enough marks. In order to obtain a mark, they had to fight for a long time. Therefore, these cultivators stared at each other with vigilant eyes. Just a bunch of ants. While these people were confronting each other, an indifferent voice slowly came from the depths of the dense forest. Then, two figures slowly appeared in front of everyone. First Prince Huangfu Wudao and second Prince Huangfu Wuji? Run! After recognizing the two figures, more than 30 people gasped and scattered like birds and beasts. Huangfu Wuji and Huangfu Wudao were monstrous geniuses in the top 10 of the Green Emperor list. Huangfu Wudao was ranked first. When these two monstrous geniuses were together, they didn't have the slightest intention to resist. The only thought in their hearts was to escape. Escape? I think it's better for you to leave your marks. Chapter 701. Wheel of the Glorious Sun. Before long, the pitiful cries came to an abrupt end as a dragon-shaped mark flew into Huangfu Wudao's palm. 32 marks. This time's harvest is quite good. Looking at the marks in his palm, Huangfu Wudao revealed a cruel smile. Standing beside Huangfu Wudao's face twitched. Huangfu Wudao was far too overbearing. Every time he attacked, he would kill them all. Moreover, he would keep all the marks he obtained, never giving any to Huangfu Wudao. Huangfu Wudao had followed Huangfu Wudao for so long, but he hadn't even obtained a single mark. Big brother, I think we should split up. After all, with our strength, there is no need for us to stay together. Huangfu Wudao's eyes flashed as he cupped his hands together, a warm smile on his face. Huangfu Wudao looked at Huangfu Wuji with surprise, the corners of his mouth revealing a deep smile as he lightly said, "What second brother says makes sense. Then let's split up and move." As he spoke, Huangfu Wudao directly passed by Huangfu Wudao, heading towards another part of the forest. He didn't even say a word before leaving. Huangfu Wudao shrugged his shoulders. He simply didn't care about Huangfu Wudao's rude attitude. He had long since become accustomed to it. In Huangfu Wudao's eyes, Huangfu Wudao was simply a freak, a fanatical madman. Once he went crazy, there was nothing he couldn't do. This was because in Huangfu Wudao's heart, there was no morality or justice. To Huangfu Wudao, as long as you were strong enough, you could plunder anything. This was the right of the strong. After Huangfu Wudao left, Huangfu Wudao let out a light breath. Even though Huangfu Wudao was a scheming person, in front of his big brother, he still felt a great deal of pressure. It's time to properly collect the marks. If I can meet that little bastard Zhuowen in the heart of darkness, that would be for the best. That little bastard must be eliminated as soon as possible. As he recalled the humiliation he had suffered in the intoxicating spring pavilion, Huangfu Wudao's eyes flashed with a cold light. He had actually lost to that lowly boy in a gambling match. Moreover, Huangfu Wudao's strength was far greater than Zhuowen's. But because of the song, he had been defeated. This caused Huangfu Wudao to be unwilling. Afterwards, Lu Hantian had tyrannically forced him to kneel in front of Zhuowen, causing Huangfu Wudao's hatred for Zhuowen. Huangfu Wudao was Huangfu Wudao's highest, and Empyrean. Emperor Azure Emperor was Huangfu Wudao's Huangfu Wudao. Huangfu Wudao's Huangfu Wudao. Lu Hantian. The Grand Tutor was an existence that was second only to one person. Even his elder brother, Huangfu Wudao, was inferior to the Grand Tutor. Only the Qing Emperor had a higher status than the Grand Tutor. Huangfu Wudao's Wudao was Huangfu Wudao. Wudao's Wudao Wudao Wudao. Huangfu Wudao's end. S. Huang's and Zhuowen. You'd better not let me see you. Otherwise it will be difficult for you to escape death. Huangfu Wudao coldly snorted. Then, with a single step, he disappeared into the forest. In another part of the forest, a youth with a 10-foot-long saber on his back was slowly walking through the forest. His eyes were looking straight ahead, his expression calm and indifferent. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, a series of ear-piercing sounds were heard from all directions. 20 silhouettes stood around the forest and looked down at the young man, who was still walking in a leisurely manner. Guosheng! It seems that we're quite lucky to run into each other in the heart of darkness. In front of the 20 figures, a gloomy youth with triangular eyes slowly walked out. His eyes were as sharp as a viper's as he stared at Guosheng. His tone was strange. Guosheng looked up, staring at the triangular-eyed youth. He indifferently said, "Feng Yong, what is the meaning of this?" This triangular-eyed youth was the #1 genius of the Feng family, Feng Yong. He was currently ranked 8th on the Green Emperor decree, ahead of Guosheng. Guosheng was ranked 9th. What do you think I'm doing? If I can eliminate a competitor ahead of time, then there will be one less person competing for the top 5 spots on the Green Emperor decree. Feng Yong sinisterly smiled. Haha, Feng Yong, do you think you have the qualifications to compete for the top 5 spots on the Green Emperor decree? Guosheng crossed his arms, sneering. Do you think I don't? If it weren't for Huangfu Wudao's special cultivation method, allowing him to win against me by a fluke, then I'm afraid my ranking would have been even higher. As for you, you're just a defeated opponent. Eliminating you in advance will save me some time. Feng Yong crossed his arms, calmly looking down at Guosheng. His face was filled with the confidence of victory. Everyone knew that the ranking on the Green Emperor decree was extremely important. As long as one could enter the top 5 spots on the Green Emperor decree, then they would have the opportunity to participate in the Excellent Divine Academy's entrance exam. The Excellent Divine Academy was a terrifying influence in the Eastern lands that was second only to the Blue Dragon Hall. Although it was only the entrance exam, if one was lucky enough to enter the Excellent Divine Academy, then their future would be meteoric. Moreover, it was said that the Excellent Divine Academy's teaching staff was extremely terrifying. Most martial artists that could study there would reach the Golden Exalt realm or above. There were even many peerless powerhouses that had successfully broken through to the Emperor realm. The Emperor realm was extremely difficult to break through. This was something that all martial artists in the Azure Profound Empire knew. But the Excellent Divine Academy was able to cultivate such a powerhouse. This was enough to prove just how attractive the resources and conditions of the Excellent Divine Academy were. Thus, the top 5 spots on the Green Emperor decree held an extraordinary significance to countless geniuses. Only by entering the top 5 spots on the Green Emperor decree would one have the qualifications to participate in the Excellent Divine Academy's entrance exam. Only then would one have a faint hope of entering the Excellent Divine Academy. Although it was only a faint hope, none of the martial artists wanted to give up so easily. This was a chance for them to leap over the Dragon Gate. Huangfu Wuji is ranked 7th. Even if you defeat Huangfu Wuji, what use is it? There are still 2 masters in front of you blocking you from entering the top 5. Guosheng coldly sneered. These past few years of bitter cultivation have already caused my cultivation to soar. I dare to guarantee that I will have a place in the top 5 spots on the Green Emperor decree. Feng Yong lifted his head high, his voice cold and detached. You aren't the only one whose cultivation has increased. Everyone's cultivation has soared. Do you think that the cultivation of all the other geniuses has remained stagnant? Guosheng shook his head, his voice filled with ridicule. Hee, you're just a defeated opponent of mine. What face do you have to preach to me? Let me see just how much you've grown in these past few years. Feng Yong narrowed his eyes. Guosheng's rebuttals had thoroughly enraged him. His gaze gathered on Guosheng's body, filled with a thick chill. As for how much I've grown, you'll only know after you try. Guosheng no longer spoke any more nonsense. He suddenly pulled out the large saber on his back. An aura that was like that of a wild beast suddenly poured out, accompanied by countless saber energies. With Guosheng as the center, a terrifying hurricane was formed. The peak of the ultimate 7-wheel Emperor realm? How did your cultivation improve so quickly? Feng Yong's pupil shrank when he sensed the terrifying aura released by Guosheng. Such a cultivation was already on par with his. In addition, Guosheng had comprehended saber intent. Such an opponent was the most difficult and terrifying to deal with. Feng Yong's expression was extremely ugly. Back then, Guosheng was much weaker than him. Although Guosheng had also comprehended saber intent, he was far from being a match for him. Therefore, Guosheng's ranking on the Green Emperor decree was 1 rank lower than his. However, Guosheng was now also at the peak of the ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm. His cultivation was already on par with his. Coupled with the terrifying saber intent, Feng Yong's confidence began to waver. I've said that no one stays the same. While your cultivation is improving by leaps and bounds, the other geniuses are also improving. Some of them who are more talented than you are improving much faster than you. Feng Yong, you're too conceited. Now take my saber. Guosheng's indifferent voice rang out. With a twist of his right wrist, the terrifying saber started to spin like a windmill. Instantly, countless saber shadows spread out and filled the dense forest. It was as if the sky and the earth were filled with saber shadows. Damn it! Your saber intent has also broken through. Damn it, how did you break through so quickly? The moment Guosheng used his saber intent, Feng Yong's face turned ashen. Not only was Guosheng's cultivation on par with his, but his saber intent had also improved a lot. Guosheng's saber had already reached a higher level. Dazzling sun roulette. Guosheng, so what if you've comprehended saber intent? It's not that easy to defeat me. Feng Yong shouted. A dazzling and terrifying golden light burst out from behind him. A dazzling golden roulette that was dozens of feet long slowly rose behind Feng Yong. It was like a small sun. Really? Saber intent, destroy everything for me. Guosheng coldly snorted. The large blade in his right hand slashed out horizontally. Instantly, countless blade shadows slashed towards Feng Yong, who was in the middle, like thousands of swords returning to their original form. The powerful killing force almost shattered the surrounding space. Crack! The huge roulette behind Feng Yong only lasted for 5 breaths of time, under the powerful saber intent. Then it shattered into countless golden fragments. Spurt! Feng Yong spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated continuously. His eyes were filled with intense fear. One saber. Guosheng had only used one saber move, and Feng Yong had been defeated. The difference between the two was too great. Feng Yong, the one who should stay today is not me, but you. Guosheng laughed loudly. With a stomp of his foot, the saber aura around his body surged as he rushed towards Feng Yong. Feng Yong's face was filled with fear. When he saw Guosheng rushing towards him, he screamed and immediately turned around to escape. His speed had soared to the extreme. When Feng Yong fled, the disciples of the Feng family that he had brought with him on the tree trunk also wanted to escape with him. Since Feng Yong has escaped, all of you will stay here. Guosheng's sharp gaze landed on the 20 people around him. His saber aura changed. Countless saber aura erupted and spread in all directions. Ah! Ah! Shrill screams resounded. None of the 20 people that Feng Yong had brought with him survived under the saber aura. Swoosh! 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 More than 20 seals flew out and were caught in Guosheng's palm. Chapter 702. Falling Star Breakthrough Rustle. Deep in the forest, a beautiful figure slowly walked out. It was a young woman in her prime. She wore a beautiful silk dress and had a graceful figure. Every frown and smile of hers was enchanting. Grand Lily. Looking at this beautiful figure, Guosheng's eyes were filled with dread. He didn't think that the one hidden deep in the forest would be the #1 genius of the Grand family, Grand Lily. Grand Lily was stronger than Huangfu Wuji. She was not a monstrous genius that Feng Yong could compare with. Even though Guosheng's cultivation and saber intent had greatly increased, it was still difficult for him to face Grand Lily. You are truly worthy of being the direct disciple of Empyrean Tyrant Blade. In just a few short years, your progress has been so great. Even Feng Yong is no match for you. Grand Lily sweetly smiled, a trace of surprise in her eyes as she looked at Guosheng. Guosheng was only ranked 9th on the Green Emperor Proclamation. She had never paid attention to him before. But now, with the strength that Guosheng had revealed, even Grand Lily felt a trace of threat. This Guosheng's talent was truly formidable. No wonder Empyrean Tyrant Blade had accepted him as a disciple. Miss Grand Lily is too polite. If I were to be compared to you, I would be far from enough. Guosheng faintly smiled, secretly being on guard. Don't be too nervous. Right now, we are only selecting the top 100 rankings of the Green Emperor Proclamation. There is no need for us to fight to the death. That is simply not worth it. So I will not attack you. As if sensing Guosheng's small movements, Grand Lily faintly smiled and casually said. Guosheng narrowed his eyes, not relaxing his vigilance in the slightest. He lightly said, I heard that Miss Grand Lily has an engagement with Muqing County's Zhuowen? That Zhuowen's talent is very strong. I once exchanged blows with him, and his talent is no weaker than mine. Perhaps he will be able to enter the top 10 rankings of the Green Emperor Proclamation. Grand Lily's eyes were cold. She indifferently said, That engagement is nothing but a joke. What is the status of the Zhuo family? And what is the status of our grand family? Moreover, you think too highly of that Zhuowen. Although that fellow has some talent, it is unlikely that he will enter the top 10 rankings of the Green Emperor Proclamation. Hearing this, Guosheng raised his eyebrows. Gloria's tone was a little wrong. It seemed that she wasn't particularly satisfied with the engagement with Zhuowen. Could it be that your Glen family wants to break the contract? I remember that this marriage contract was personally signed by the patriarch of your Grant family. Don't you think it's too immoral to break the contract now? Guosheng frowned. Back in the house of Marquis Qin, Guosheng had exchanged a few blows with Zhuowen. He actually had a good impression of Zhuowen. Now that he saw Grand Lily belittling Zhuowen, Guosheng felt slightly uncomfortable. This isn't a matter of breaking the contract. It's that Zhuowen isn't worthy of me. And the Zhuo family isn't worthy of our Grant family. This is our family matter. You seem to be meddling too much. At this point, Grand Lily's expression turned hostile. Her beautiful eyes narrowed into slits as she stared coldly at Guosheng, causing the latter to feel a strong sense of threat. Perhaps. However, Zhuowen isn't the ordinary genius that you think he is. That guy isn't simple. Guosheng shook his head and stopped arguing with Grand Lily. With a stomp of his foot, countless sword chi surrounded him. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the dense forest. Not simple. In my opinion, he's just a piece of trash. So what if his martial arts talent is high? Zhuowen, who has a useless armor soul, once he enters the Four Venerables realm, he'll be a complete piece of trash. Grand Haohai had already told Grand Lily that the broken jade tripod armor soul that Zhuowen had was a useless armor soul. Although Zhuowen's talent was indeed very strong, what was the use of having strong talent? When the Four Venerables realm martial artists had their armor souls materialized, the armor soul would have an extremely obvious effect on the martial artists. To put it bluntly, if there were 4 Venerables realm martial artists of the same rank, if one of the martial artists had a higher quality armor soul, he would be able to suppress the other martial artist who had a weaker armor soul. A useless armor soul was equivalent to an armor soul that couldn't assist the martial artist at all. All strength could only rely on the martial artist's own martial art strength. Unknowingly, the armor soul was much weaker than the martial artists who had powerful armor souls. Shaking her head, Grand Lily didn't take Zhuowen seriously at all. If Guosheng hadn't suddenly mentioned Zhuowen, Grand Lily wouldn't have even mentioned him. This was because in Grand Lily's opinion, Zhuowen was definitely one of the insignificant stepping stones on her martial arts path. She didn't need to care about him at all. Thinking of this, Grand Lily shook her head and left the dense forest. The curtain of night was like a black dragon that slowly descended. The originally gloomy forest became even darker under the curtain of night. At the bottom of a remote cliff in the heart of darkness, there was an extremely hidden cave. At this moment, a bonfire flickered in the cave, faintly revealing the figures of 3 people. In the center of the cave, a bonfire surged. 3 people sat around the bonfire, 2 women and 1 man. They were Zhuowen, Qinglian and Luoxing. During the day, after Zhuowen forcefully snatched the extreme purple ice grass from Wen Ao Shui's hands, he led the 3 of them out of the swamp. After searching for a while, they finally found this rather remote cave. Luoxing's cultivation had already reached the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. Now that he had the extreme purple ice grass, a grade 6 spiritual herb, his chances of breaking through to the ultimate emperor realm were much higher. Thus, he needed to find a quiet place to break through. This remote cave was just right. Luoxing, how confident are you in breaking through to the ultimate emperor realm this time? Zhuowen casually tossed a withered branch into the bonfire. His eyelids drooped slightly, and his voice was calm and hopeful. Once Luo Xing broke through to the ultimate emperor realm, he would be of great help to him. If I didn't have the extreme purple ice grass, I would only have a 30% chance. But now that I have the extreme purple ice grass, I have an 80% chance. Luo Xing said with bright eyes. 80%. Hearing this, Zhuowen and Qing Lian's eyes lit up. An 80% chance was already extremely high. This meant that Luo Xing was very confident in her breakthrough this time. How long will it take? Zhuowen continued to ask. A month at most, Luo Xing said with gritted teeth. Good. This cave will be your closed seclusion place then. This 1 month's time will stand guard for you. Zhuowen said with a smile. A month was neither too long nor too short. It was about the same as Zhuowen's plan. Thank you very much. Luo Xing looked gratefully at Zhuowen and Qing Lian. Then she stood up and walked into the depths of the cave. At the end of the cave, there was a natural cave. It was the most suitable place for seclusion cultivation. I hope senior sister Luo Xing can successfully break through this time. Qing Lian said with clenched fists as she watched Luo Xing leave. Don't worry. Luo Xing is very talented. Now that she has the extreme purple ice grass, she has a very high chance of breaking through, Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Yes, I hope so. Qing Lian nodded and said softly. Time gradually passed. A month had passed very quickly. Most of the warriors in the Heart of Darkness had already started fighting. Many of the weaker warriors had been eliminated by the stronger ones. However, there were also some opportunistic warriors. After obtaining a small number of seals, they found a secret place to hide. There were only 2 months left before the Peach Blossom origin chart ended. They knew that after these 2 months, as long as they were not eliminated early, they might be lucky enough to enter the top 100 on the Green Emperor ranking. Many of them had such thoughts. Basically, they did not dare to provoke the geniuses on the Green Emperor ranking, especially the top 10 on the Green Emperor ranking. As soon as they saw the top 10 geniuses on the Green Emperor ranking, most warriors would run away immediately. Even if they could not escape, they would throw away the seals in their hands. It was because of this effect that although the top 10 warriors on the Green Emperor ranking were very powerful, they did not have many battles. Naturally, they did not obtain many seals. In this regard, the top 10 warriors on the Green Emperor ranking were extremely helpless. The moment they met the top 10 warriors, they would run away faster than rabbits. They could not catch up to them, even if they wanted to. There was an empty space outside the remote mountain cave. Zhuowen leaned against the rock wall with narrowed eyes, silently waiting for something. On the other hand, Qing Lian's beautiful eyes were staring at the interior of the mountain cave. Her gaze was filled with anticipation. Rumble. Suddenly, the sky above the cave changed color. Countless dark clouds gathered and terrifying thunderbolts the size of buckets struck down from the dark clouds. In an instant, the entire cave was filled with thunderbolts, as if it had turned into a world of thunder. 6 rounds of tribulation of heaven and earth. Zhuowen and Qing Lian raised their heads at the same time. Their eyes were fixed on the countless thunderbolts that had gathered in the sky. They were both moved. They knew that Luo Xing had successfully broken through. I wonder if senior sister can successfully pass through the tribulation of heaven and earth. Qing Lian asked worriedly. Rumble. A thunderbolt struck down, causing the entire mountain to crumble. Amidst the rubble, a graceful figure soared into the sky. With a wave of her hand, countless starlight filled the air. The thunderbolt was like a clay ox entering the sea, annihilating it directly. Rumble. Rumble. Another thunderbolt struck down, turning into a 5-fingered lightning claw in the sky, blasting towards Rumble. Senior sister Rumble. Qing Lian cried out worriedly. There's still one final lightning tribulation. The might of this final lightning tribulation is even more terrifying than the 5-fingered lightning claw earlier. If Luo Xing wants to block it, it will likely be very dangerous, Zhuowen said with a slight frown. Rumble. The last thunder tribulation descended and turned into a thunder dragon that was hundreds of feet long. With a roar, the thunder dragon swooped down and blasted towards the tiny falling star. The thunder dragon was too terrifying. Everywhere it passed, the space would collapse completely. Zhuowen. It is impossible for senior sister Rumble to withstand the last thunderbolt. What should we do? Feeling the terrifying lightning dragon in the sky, Qing Lian's face turned pale. Her eyes were filled with tears, making her look pitiful. Let's try the golden phoenix flame, and see if it can withstand it. Chapter 703. The arrival of Huangfu Wuji. A resounding phoenix cry resounded across the sky. Immediately, the enormous phoenix illusory figure suddenly soared high into the sky, instantly wrapping around the falling star in the sky. Rumble! The enormous thunder dragon swooped down and instantly arrived above the phoenix phantom. For a moment, the cries of the dragon and phoenix resounded through the void, loud and ear-piercing. Soon after, a terrifying explosion rose from the void, and the mountain below trembled violently. Then a miserable figure fell from the sky. Zhuowen shook his sleeve, and a powerful force surged out. Luo Xing's falling figure slowed down and landed safely. Senior sister Luo Xing, are you all right? As soon as Luo Xing landed, Qing Lian immediately stepped forward and looked at her with concern. I'm fine. In the end, it was all thanks to Zhuowen's phoenix phantom. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to block the last thunder tribulation. Luo Xing shook her head and stared at Zhuowen with eyes full of gratitude. She knew that if it weren't for Zhuowen's phoenix projection blocking in front of her, she would have most likely died under the lightning dragon's attack. Luo Xing, congratulations on breaking through to the ultimate six-wheel emperor stage. However, let's leave this place first. The 6 heavenly tribulations caused too much of a commotion. I'm afraid that it has attracted many cultivators. Zhuowen stepped forward with an extremely solemn expression. The 6 heavenly tribulations caused too much of a commotion. It would be difficult not to attract attention. Zhuowen is right. Let's leave this place quickly. Qing Lian also came to the side of the other two. The 3 of them agreed and nodded. Just as they were about to leave, a loud laughter suddenly sounded from the open space in front of them. Haha, Zhuowen, it seems that we're really fated to meet in the heart of darkness. Let's see how you'll escape from me this time. A sharp sound broke through the air and instantly arrived in front of the open space. A tall figure wearing a brocade robe appeared. It was the second prince Huangfu Wuji, who had separated from Huangfu Wudao. Huangfu Wuji, Fallen Star and Clear Lotus cried out in alarm, their eyes filled with fear. Huangfu Wuji was a monstrous genius ranked in the top 10 of the Blue Emperor decree. His strength was far greater than Zhuowen's. They never thought that Huangfu Wuji would actually come here. At this moment, Huangfu Wuji's eyes were filled with excitement. He had originally been near the cave, because he had been attracted by the heavenly calamity of the falling star. He never imagined that he would run into Zhuowen here. This was truly a small world. Zhuowen, you're a coward. That day at the Drunken Spring Pavilion, you didn't even dare to take 3 of my moves. A coward like you living in this world is simply a waste of food. Huangfu Wuji's eyes were locked onto Zhuowen's body. He grinned, revealing a row of cold white teeth. At this moment, he seemed extremely cold and terrifying. Coward? Huangfu Wuji, I have never seen anyone with such thick skin like you in my entire life. You were the one who proposed the bet, but you lost. Not only did you not admit it, but you even shamelessly asked me to take 3 of your moves. I, Zhuowen, would like to ask you something. You are the second prince of the imperial family, a high official, and also a monstrous genius ranked in the top 10 of the Blue Emperor decree. Your strength is far greater than mine, and yet you still want me to take 3 of your moves after losing the bet. Even a fool wouldn't agree to such a condition, right? But you are so shameless as to openly propose it. Don't you think it's shameful? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. His complexion became even colder, and his lips curved in a sneer. You really are a bastard with a sharp tongue. No matter how eloquent you are, you will not be able to change the fate of your death today. Huangfu Wuji coldly snorted. He didn't want to argue with Zhuowen. With a single step, a terrifying aura gushed out from him. Huangfu Wuji was a genuine powerhouse at the peak of the extreme 7-wheel emperor realm. Even Guosheng feared him. As this aura was released, Zhuowen's complexion became a bit ugly. Although Zhuowen had many cards in his hands, Huangfu Wuji's cultivation was an entire large boundary higher than his own. If he were to face Huang Fuwuji, even Zhuowen wasn't sure he could win. Clear Lotus, Falling Star, you two leave first. Otherwise, you will only become a burden to me. Zhuowen turned his head and shouted at Cool Spring and Falling Star. Huang Fuwuji was far too powerful. Zhuowen didn't have the strength to protect these two women. Leaving now was the wisest choice. But Zhuowen... Clear Lotus seemed to want to say something, but she was interrupted by Zhuowen. Zhuowen calmly said, "Hurry up and leave this place. I, Zhuowen, am not so easy to kill. This Huang Fuwuji doesn't have the strength to kill me." Clear Lotus. Zhuowen is right. Let's hurry up and leave. We will only become a burden to him if we stay here. Falling Star was much calmer. She quickly grabbed onto Clear Lotus and deeply gazed at Zhuowen's back. Then she left with Clear Lotus. What a touching scene. A hero saving a beauty? Unfortunately, this hero will soon die. Huang Fuwuji calmly stood in front of them. He didn't stop Falling Star and Clear Lotus from leaving. His goal was only Zhuowen. Die. That's not necessarily true. Turning around, Zhuowen's eyes became indifferent. He pulled out the dragon scale tyrant bone spear and coldly stared at Huang Fuwuji. Whoosh! Whoosh! Due to the commotion caused by the world calamity, some of the cultivators who were further away from the area had also been attracted over. When they saw the two figures quietly facing each other in the open space in front of them, all of them revealed stunned expressions. Second Prince Huang Fuwuji? Who is the other person? He actually dares to stand in front of Huang Fuwuji without fear. His courage is not small. The surrounding crowd recognized Huang Fuwuji. As for Zhuowen's face, many of them were unfamiliar with him. They all knew that Zhuowen wasn't one of the top 10 geniuses on the Azure Emperor decree. That person seems to be Muqing County's Zhuowen. He's the Zhuowen that once gambled with Huang Fuwuji at the intoxicated Spring Pavilion. Suddenly, someone recognized Zhuowen. Unfortunately, this voice was ignored. Although the intoxicated Spring Pavilion had been very lively, there hadn't been many geniuses present. Most of the geniuses present were the representatives of the 8 great counties. Besides those extremely powerful geniuses, most of the geniuses present didn't know about the gambling match between Zhuowen and Huang Fuwuji. When some people called out Zhuowen's name, most of them revealed looks of confusion. It looks like this Zhuowen is planning on fighting against the second Prince Huang Fuwuji. This boy is simply courting death. However, this boy's courage is commendable. He actually dares to fight against the second prince. Many people had mocking expressions on their faces. These martial artists were well aware of just how strong Huang Fuwuji was. This was the 7th-ranked ruthless character on the Azure Emperor decree. Perhaps it was because of the confrontation between Huang Fuwuji and Zhuowen, but the surrounding martial artists temporarily gave up on fighting for the symbol. Their eyes were all focused on the two people standing in the center of the open space. Zhuowen, with so many people bearing witness to your death, you should be able to die without regrets. Huang Fuwuji could also feel the large number of martial artists surrounding him. The corners of his lips curled up as he glared at Zhuowen, his voice thick with killing intent. Nonsense. If you really want to kill me, then just come at me. What's the point of spouting so much nonsense? Zhuowen coldly said. As these words came out, Huang Fuwuji's complexion froze. His eyes were filled with a monstrous rage. This Zhuowen was far too presumptuous. He actually dared to speak to him in such a manner. He would make sure this boy died a miserable death. Since you want to die so much, then I'll help you. With a cold snort, Huang Fuwuji stamped his foot and shot forwards like an arrow. Wherever he went, countless astral winds would be created, and the space around him seemed to show faint signs of collapsing. Chi. At the same time, 2 purple energies emerged from Huang Fuwuji's hands, turning into 2 purple energy blades that shined with a cold light. Huang Fuwuji arrived in an instant. The energy blade in his right hand slashed out, falling from the sky as it smashed towards Zhuowen's forehead, turning into a dazzling purple light in the air. Zhuowen's complexion was dignified. This Huang Fuwuji gave him an enormous amount of pressure, so he could not be careless. This spear has a soul. It is called Spear Intent. With a step, Zhuowen gently took 2 steps back. He raised the bone spear in his right hand, and the bone spear fiercely rose up. A terrifying concept power violently gushed out, forming countless tadpole-like blue spear shadows around Zhuowen's body. Kung! The bone spear soared into the sky, wrapped in countless spear shadows. The sharp spear point accurately blocked the purple energy blade that was chopping down from the sky. Suddenly, an ear-piercing sound of metal rang out. Then, the ground between Huangfu Wuji and Zhuowen began to crack, like a spider web that spread out in all directions. Huangfu Wuji's strike had actually been blocked by Zhuowen. In the eyes of everyone present, this scene was simply inconceivable. That Zhuowen was actually able to block Huangfu Wuji's strike. It seems that this boy is not simple at all. The eyes of the surrounding geniuses flashed. Their original contempt for Zhuowen had weakened by a great deal. They also understood that this Zhuowen was not weak. It was no wonder that Huangfu Wuji had specifically targeted him. Spear intent? Huangfu Wuji narrowed his eyes. As he felt the spear intent on the bone spear, a trace of surprise appeared in his heart. This Zhuowen's talent was quite good. He was actually able to comprehend the mysterious power of concepts. But so what if it is spear intent? In the face of absolute strength, it is still nothing but trash. Huangfu Wuji coldly smiled. The purple energy blade in his left hand was ready to be released, chopping down at Zhuowen from bottom to top. Its momentum was like a rainbow, and its power was peerless. The power of this strike was even more terrifying than before. Zhuowen's complexion changed. The spear in his hand changed, and the countless spear shadows around him suddenly condensed in front of him, wanting to block Huangfu Wuji's strike. Bang! The purple energy blade arrived in an instant. Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he discovered that the countless spear shadows around him had actually shattered, scattering into countless blue powders. Whoosh! The purple energy blade did not slow down. It continued to sweep towards Zhuowen's chest. Its speed was fast to the extreme, and its power was terrifying to the extreme. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat, and an ominous feeling rose in his heart. Block it for me. Chapter 704. Purple Shadow Kill. Ding ding ding. Zhuowen was forced back several steps. He stared at Huangfu Wuji in front of him, his face gloomy to the extreme. Huangfu Wuji's strength was truly formidable. Even though Zhuowen had used his spear intent, he was still at a disadvantage. Your strength is not bad, but the difference between you and me is too great. Today you will die, Zhuowen. Huangfu Wuji licked his lips and sneered. His entire body shot out like an arrow from a bow. The purple energy blades in his hands shot out, rushing towards Zhuowen once more. Pung pung pung. For a time, the sounds of metal striking metal constantly resounded in the open space. Then, countless dazzling sparks appeared around them as the two of them battled once more. Unfortunately, Huangfu Wuji was simply too strong. Under his purple energy blades, Zhuowen was basically being suppressed. He simply didn't have the strength to fight back. That Zhuowen's strength is not bad. He can actually fight with Huangfu Wuji to this degree. Unfortunately, the difference between the two of them is too great. Zhuowen is simply not Huangfu Wuji's match. The surrounding geniuses couldn't help but shake their heads and sigh. They had also noticed the spear intent that Zhuowen had displayed just now. Naturally, they had a higher opinion of Zhuowen. A martial artist that could control the power of concepts was basically a heaven-gifted genius. Their future potential was limitless. As long as this Zhuowen was given enough time, he would inevitably become an incredible powerhouse. Unfortunately, this boy would soon be strangled in the cradle by Huangfu Wuji. This was because the difference between the two of them was simply too great. Zhuowen, this is the final strike. This strike will send you directly to the Yellow Springs. Huangfu Wuji coldly shouted. The purple energy blades in his hands swept out, violently sweeping towards Zhuowen. Suddenly, countless purple lights appeared in the air, covering the sky in layers. It looked very illusory. Purple Shadow Kill. A low and deep voice came out from Huangfu Wuji's mouth. Huangfu Wuji leapt up, and the two energy blades in his hands slashed out. Suddenly, countless purple lights gathered in the air, turning into a sky full of energy blades. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless chi blades shot towards Zhuowen. It was as if 10,000 swords had been released, and it looked extremely terrifying. What a terrifying move. Zhuowen is finished. I'm afraid he won't be able to block so many terrifying chi blades. Looking at the purple energy blades that filled the skies, the surrounding people all revealed looks of horror. Huangfu Wuji's purple shadow's killing power was extremely terrifying. They didn't even have the slightest will to resist. Six-colored refining flame. Open it. Zhuowen shouted. Instantly, 6 types of earth fire gushed out and merged into a 6-colored refining flame. CICICI. The 6-colored refining flames surged out and surrounded Zhuowen's body, turning into a 6-colored fire escape that surrounded Zhuowen. Boom! Boom! Countless chi blades hit the 6-colored flame shield, and suddenly countless 6-colored sparks flew out, and strange sounds rang out. What surprised Zhuowen was that the 6-colored flame shield actually showed signs of collapsing under the attack of the chi blades. What a terrifying attack! This Huangfu Wuji's purple shadow's killing power is actually so strong? Zhuowen's complexion turned ugly. He was well aware of just how strong the 6-colored refining flame shield was. As soon as they came into contact, the 6-colored refining flame shield actually showed signs of collapsing. It was obvious that the 6-colored refining flame shield wouldn't be able to last much longer. You little bastard. You actually have 6 types of earth fire on your body. But so what? I can still destroy you. Huangfu Wuji sinisterly laughed. He suddenly swooped down, and the purple chi blades in his hands grew to several tens of feet long. With a twist of his hands, they pierced into the 6-colored flame shield. Bang! A thunderous sound rang out, and the 6-colored flame shield collapsed into countless sparks. Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards, his face incomparably pale. Die! Huangfu Wuji rushed out, instantly catching up to Zhuowen. The purple chi blades in his hands shot out, piercing towards Zhuowen's chest. Infinite sword array! Zhuowen roared. He had finally taken out the infinite sword array. The pressure that Huangfu Wuji had given him was far too great. He had no choice but to use the infinite sword array. A terrifying soul force swept out from his Naiwen palace. Then, a cold light shot out from his spirit ring, circling around Zhuowen's body, forming an impenetrable wall. Pung! The purple chi blades arrived, crashing into the infinite sword array. Countless sparks flew out, but they were unable to penetrate the infinite sword array's defenses. Dang dang dang! With the help of the counterforce, Zhuowen twisted his waist in midair. His feet stepped on the ground, and a massive sword array surrounded his body. His face was solemn as he stared at Huangfu Wuji. Infinite sword array? I never thought that the treasure pavilion's infinite sword array would be in your hands, and that you would also be an arcana master. Huangfu Wuji rubbed his numb hand. The infinite sword array was far too solid. Even he found it difficult to break through its defenses. The counterforce that passed through the array's surface even caused his hand to feel numb. However, what surprised Huangfu Wuji was that Zhuowen was actually able to control the infinite sword array. According to what he knew, the infinite sword array was an incomplete 5th-grade origin array. In order to control the infinite sword array, one would need at least a 4th-grade soul force. But Zhuowen in front of him not only possessed the infinite sword array, but he was also able to control it as he wished. It was obvious that Zhuowen was also a 4th-grade arcana master. The many surrounding geniuses were also stunned by Zhuowen's sudden change. They didn't think that Zhuowen would suddenly take out the infinite sword array, nor did they think that he would be an arcana master with such a strong soul force. This Zhuowen actually cultivates both martial arts and soul force at the same time. Isn't this fellow too monstrous? His martial arts boundary isn't low, and even his soul force isn't weak. As everyone was stunned, Zhuowen took a deep breath. His eyes filled with dread as he stared at Huangfu Wuji. He said, I have the infinite sword array. You Huangfu Wuji cannot kill me. This isn't the ranking tournament yet, so it wouldn't be good to let others reap the benefits. As he spoke, Zhuowen stared at the numerous martial artists around him. Zhuowen was very clear that if he and Huangfu Wuji were to fight and both sides were severely wounded, then the ones who would obtain the greatest benefits would be these martial artists, who were eyeing them covetously. Reap the benefits. Zhuowen, you think too highly of yourself. Do you think that if you fight with me, both of us will be severely wounded? What a joke. So what if you have the infinite sword array? I will still be able to kill you. Huang Fuwuji proudly smiled. His feet stepped into the air, and he once again rushed towards Zhuowen. The purple blades of energy in his hands became even larger, faintly revealing a sharp intent. You forced me to do this. Zhuowen coldly snorted. He waved his right hand, and the countless swords around him turned into countless cold lights that shot towards Huang Fuwuji. The infinite sword formation can't stop me, Zhuowen. Countless sword lights instantly surrounded Huang Fuwuji. However, Huang Fuwuji wasn't worried at all. He was extremely confident in his own strength. Can't stop you? Then you can try. Infinite sword array, weeping blood style. Zhuowen sneered. Countless strands of soul force gushed out, and he immediately used the first of the 5 sword moves of the infinite sword array, the weeping blood style. Countless sword cries sounded out. Then from the void, a drop of blood fell down, falling into the infinite sword array. Suddenly, the entire sword array was covered in a blood-red color. A chilling aura slowly rose up from the sword array. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless sword lights shot out, smashing towards Huang Fuwuji. Blood energy filled the air, and the pungent smell of blood billowed out. Purple shadow kill. Huang Fuwuji coldly shouted. He once again waved out the purple blade of air in his hand. Suddenly, countless blades of air appeared, rushing towards the sword lights around him. The sound of metal clanging against metal filled the air. You have some skill. Unfortunately, do you think that this is the extent of my strength? Huang Fuwuji coldly smiled. He squeezed his hands together, and the purple blade of air was crushed, scattering into countless purple starlight. The starlight gathered, turning into a pair of purple eyes in the void behind him. Purple eyes. With a low shout, the pair of purple eyes blinked. Suddenly, with Huang Fuwuji as the center, the space within a 10-meter radius completely collapsed, turning into nothingness. As for the sword lights formed by the infinite sword array, they were actually forced back by the pair of purple eyes. Haha, Zhuowen, what other moves do you have? Just use them, this is your last chance to show off. Huang Fuwuji loudly shouted. He stepped out from the countless sword lights, turning his head to look in front of Zhuowen. However, what surprised him was that there was no one there. Idiot! Do you really think that I would be stupid enough to fight with you? 10 miles away, Zhuowen was as light as a catkin stepping through the air. When Huang Fuwuji had been trapped in the infinite sword array, Zhuowen had already turned around and fled. This Huang Fuwuji was simply too strong. If Zhuowen fought with his life on the line, the gains would not make up for the losses. You really are a coward. Huang Fuwuji angrily roared. He stepped forwards, directly chasing after Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had opened up too much distance between them. Huang Fuwuji's speed was also not very fast. Wanting to catch up to Zhuowen was far too difficult. In the air, Zhuowen stepped through the air. As he looked at Huang Fuwuji, who was dozens of miles away, he let out a light breath, but his heart was incomparably cold. For Huang Fuwuji to target him like this, Zhuowen was also somewhat angry in his heart. If it weren't for the fact that he had some hidden cards, then he really might have been kept in the peach blossom origin diagram by Huang Fuwuji. Huang Fuwuji is right. You are simply a coward. You only know how to run. What a spineless piece of trash. In the air, the originally fleeing Zhuowen suddenly heard a clear voice in his ear. Then, a terrifying whip shadow suddenly swept out from the void in front of him. Before Zhuowen could even react, the whip had already struck his chest. Poochie! Zhuowen did not know that there was someone attacking him in front of him. Caught off guard, he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards, his eyes filled with shock and anger. This person had attacked him for no reason at all. This was too hateful. Turning his head with great effort, Zhuowen suddenly saw a slender and elegant figure in the air in front of him. She stood proudly, her indifferent eyes quietly staring at him. Chapter 705. Extreme Purple Slaughterwhoosh. Zhuowen suddenly flew backwards, immediately causing many of the surrounding martial artists to be surprised. When they followed Zhuowen's gaze, they all revealed looks of amazement. In the void in front of them, there was a slender and elegant figure, with an arrogant expression on her face. Her beautiful eyes indifferently stared at the flying Zhuowen. It's Grand Lily. I didn't think that Grand Lily would also make a move. This Zhuowen is really going to suffer a calamity. Everyone shook their heads. As they looked at Zhuowen, there was a trace of pity in their eyes. Grand Lily was stronger than Huang Fuwuji. A moment ago, Zhuowen had not even been Huang Fuwuji's match, much less Grand Lily. Huang Fuwuji, who was chasing from behind, also did not think that such a turn of events would occur. Originally, Zhuowen's speed was much faster than his. If Zhuowen had really fled, it would have been too difficult for him to catch up. But now, because Grand Lily had made a move, Zhuowen had no choice but to retreat. Huang Fuwuji instantly caught up to Zhuowen. Zhuowen, it looks like you've offended many people. Even Grand Lily has made a move to stop you. Let's see where you can run now. Prepare to die for me. Huang Fuwuji meaningfully looked at Grand Lily in front of him. With a single step, he instantly arrived in the air above Zhuowen. Purple blades of air shot out from his hands. Countless blades of air danced in the air. He had actually used purple shadow slaughter once again. At this moment, Zhuowen's complexion was extremely ugly. This Grand Lily had not said a single word, but had actually attacked him. This caused Zhuowen to choke down a ball of fire. In particular, Grand Lily's arrogant attitude of looking down on him caused Zhuowen's heart to become extremely angry. This little slut Zhuowen had not even looked for her because of the broken engagement. Now she had indiscriminately attacked him. Moreover, she had even put on such an arrogant expression. How could Zhuowen not be angry in his heart? Countless blades of air shot out, rumbling towards Zhuowen below. The terrifying power of these blades seemed to distort space itself. Greater limitless sword array. Block it for me. Zhuowen shouted loudly. Instantly, countless sword lights revolved in front of Zhuowen, forming an impenetrable defense. Bang bang bang. Countless sparks flew out as the chi blades bombarded the impenetrable wall. The strong rebounding force caused Zhuowen to involuntarily retreat dozens of steps. His complexion turned even paler. Not far away, Grand Lily's beautiful eyes flashed, but she did not attack again. Instead, she stared coldly at Zhuowen. Actually, she had arrived here long ago, and had also discovered Zhuowen. Originally, she hadn't cared too much about Zhuowen. But after the battle between Zhuowen and Huang Fuwuji, the more she watched, the more surprised she became. Not only had Zhuowen grasped spear intent, but he was also a grade 4 arcana master with powerful spiritual force. This was the first time Grand Lily had seen someone with such terrifying talent in both martial arts and spiritual force. Faintly, she felt that Zhuowen was a threat. Thus, when Zhuowen had tried to escape, she had resolutely attacked him. After all, the marriage contract was still in Zhuowen's hands. If she could kill Zhuowen in the heart of darkness, then the marriage contract would no longer be valid. This was also the reason why Grand Lily had attacked. However, she had only attacked to stop him. She didn't plan on personally dealing with Zhuowen. With her status and arrogant personality, it was impossible for her to join forces with Huang Fuwuji to deal with such an insignificant boy like Zhuowen. If she attacked, that would be overestimating Zhuowen. She believed that with Huang Fuwuji's strength, killing Zhuowen was more than enough. Zhuowen, you cannot escape now. Today, you will die. As Zhuowen retreated, Huang Fuwuji rushed forwards once more. The purple blades of air in his hands danced in the air. Countless purple clouds gathered behind him, turning into a pair of terrifying purple eyes. Purple eyes. As soon as the pair of purple eyes appeared, a terrifying strength erupted. With Huang Fuwuji as the center, the entire space within a radius of dozens of meters exploded and collapsed. Zhuowen was the closest, and was directly struck by this strength. Kacha! The impenetrable wall formed by the greater everlasting sword array suddenly collapsed. The terrifying strength passed through the greater everlasting sword array, and smashed into Zhuowen's chest. Damn! Golden phoenix flames. Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. The power of Huang Fuwuji's purple eyes was extremely terrifying. He had already experienced it a moment ago. Even the greater everlasting sword array's weeping blood style had been broken apart. A resounding phoenix cry rang out as the phoenix symbol on Zhuo Wen's back lit up, spewing out boundless golden flames that circled around Zhuo Wen's body, forming a golden flame armor. Bang! The power of the purple eyes also arrived. As they smashed into the golden flame armor, countless golden sparks flew out. However, the golden phoenix flames were extremely tough. Even the purple eyes were unable to completely break through the golden flame armor. Dang dang dang. However, the shockwaves from the collision of the two forces caused Zhuo Wen to fall into the ground like a meteor. He smashed into the ground, creating a massive crater that was dozens of feet deep. Zhuo Wen slowly stood up from the crater. At this time, he was in an extremely distressed state. His clothes were ragged and his skin was cracked in many places. Blood flowed out from his wounds as he gasped for breath. Your life is quite tough. It's already comparable to a cockroach. However, I want to see whether or not you can block this strike. Seeing that Zhuo Wen hadn't died, Huangfu Wuji's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. However, this surprise was soon replaced by indifference. Today he had to kill Zhuo Wen. Extreme purple slaughter. As Huangfu Wuji spoke, the purple energy blades in his hands began to spew out endless purple gas that gathered around the purple energy blades. Suddenly, the several dozen-foot-long purple energy blades expanded to thousands of feet long, as if they were a purple mountain peak. It was earth-shattering. Huangfu Wuji waved his hands, and two giant purple blades that were as large as mountains fell from the sky, smashing towards Zhuo Wen's head. What a terrifying attack! This extreme purple slaughter is one of Huangfu Wuji's ultimate moves. Now, he actually used it to deal with Zhuo Wen. It seems that Huangfu Wuji will kill this boy today. As the extreme purple slaughter appeared, everyone's complexions changed. Huangfu Wuji's extreme purple slaughter was extremely famous. It was one of his killing moves. There were very few martial artists of the same generation that were able to block Huangfu Wuji's killing move. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The two giant purple blades that were as large as mountains were like falling meteors. They swept downwards, carrying with them an indomitable aura. Zhuo Wen's complexion finally changed. The pressure that this extreme purple slaughter gave him was too great. It actually gave him a faint feeling that he couldn't resist. It was too strong. It seems that I can only try to fuse the 7 colored flames. Zhuo Wen's eyes flashed. He finally decided to use the fire fusion art and fuse together the 7 types of earth fires. However, the golden phoenix flame was a flame that he had just obtained. He wasn't sure if it would be able to fuse with the other 6 types of earth fires. I can only go all out. Seeing the falling purple blades, Zhuo Wen no longer hesitated. He quickly summoned the 6 types of earth fires within his body. At the same time, the mental strength within his Naiwen palace began to revolve. 6 types of earth fires again? Zhuo Wen's same move is completely useless against me. In front of the extreme purple slaughter, your 6 types of earth fires are just like paper, completely useless. In the air, as Huangfu Wuji looked down at Zhuo Wen summoning the 6 types of earth fires, the mocking smile on his face became even thicker. He still remembered that when Zhuo Wen had first used the 6 colored flames, it had been broken by his purple shadow slaughter. Now, this extreme purple slaughter was far more terrifying than the purple shadow slaughter. It was simply impossible for the 6 colored flames to block it. Zhuo Wen didn't pay any attention to the mocking Huangfu Wuji. At this moment, he was completely focused on the 6 types of earth fires in front of him, patiently controlling the 6 types of earth fires to fuse together. Whoosh! Without wasting too much time, the 6 types of earth fires were quickly fused together. 6 different colored flames burned in Zhuo Wen's palm, as if they were alive. What a waste of effort! Huangfu Wuji shook his head. He disapproved of Zhuo Wen's actions at this moment. After fusing together the 6 colored flames, Zhuo Wen's movements didn't stop. He squeezed his right hand, and suddenly, the golden phoenix flames on his body began to surge out. Under his control, they began to slowly fuse together with the 6 colored flames. Chi-chi-chi. There was a strange sound, and then the golden phoenix flames began to show signs of resistance. However, under the suppression of Zhuo Wen's mental strength, They finally obediently fused into the 6 colored flames. As soon as the golden phoenix flames fused into the 6 colored flames, the surrounding temperature suddenly soared to an appalling degree. Then, Zhuowen was stunned to discover that the 7 colored flames in his hand were constantly twisting and changing. A resounding phoenix cry sounded out once more. Then, Zhuowen discovered that the 7 colored flames that had just fused together had actually turned into a phoenix that spread its wings and flew high into the sky. 7 colored phoenix? Is it because of the golden phoenix flames? Looking at the changes in the 7 colored flames in his hand, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He suddenly thought of the golden phoenix flames. Perhaps only the golden phoenix flames could cause the 7 colored flames to undergo such a change. It seems that the golden phoenix flames are indeed extraordinary. I wonder how powerful this 7 colored phoenix is. As he spoke, Zhuowen threw his right hand upwards. The 7 colored phoenix in his hand suddenly soared into the sky. Its originally palm-sized body began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, it had turned into a 7 colored phoenix that was thousands of feet in size. Its huge wings spread out, wrapped in a monstrous sea of fire, and the 7 colored phoenix instantly rushed towards the 2 giant purple blades in the air. Bang! A terrifying explosion sounded out. Purple light and 7 colored flames spread out all over the sky. For a moment, the entire horizon turned into a sea of fire. It looked exceptionally terrifying. The countless surrounding martial artists couldn't help but retreat again and again. They didn't think that Zhuowen would be able to use such a terrifying move. Even Grant Lily, who was standing not too far away, had a trace of surprise in her originally calm eyes. The power of this 7 colored phoenix had also surpassed her expectations. Dang dang dang! Huangfu Wuji retreated again and again, a look of fear and alarm appearing on his face. He didn't think that Zhuowen would be able to use such a powerful move like the 7 colored phoenix. Zhuowen, today you will die without a doubt. Extreme purple slaughter, 3rd blade come forth. Huangfu Wuji gave a loud shout. Another purple energy blade condensed in his hand. This purple energy blade was much deeper in color than the other 2, and its aura was also much more terrifying. Bang! Huangfu Wuji waved his right hand, and the purple energy blade expanded once more, growing to a terrifying size of nearly 10,000 feet. Chapter 706. 7 Colored Phoenix Bang. The nearly 10,000-foot-long purple blade slashed down from the void, instantly landing on the 7 colored phoenix's body and forcing it back several hundred steps. Break for me! Huangfu Wuji stepped into the air, standing on top of the purple blade. He pressed down with his right hand, and the 3 purple blades split into 3 different directions, erupting with endless purple energy that bombarded the 7 colored phoenix. The 7 colored phoenix was not to be outdone. It counterattacked again and again. Unfortunately, the 3 purple blades were too powerful. Even though the 7 colored phoenix was peerlessly powerful, it was still suppressed. Below, Zhuowen looked at the suppressed 7 colored phoenix, a dignified look in his eyes. Huangfu Wuji was too strong. The disparity between them was too great. Zhuowen was simply not his match. I have to leave this place. Zhuowen knew that if he continued to tangle with Huangfu Wuji, he would undoubtedly be defeated. At that time, he might not even be able to keep his life. Taking advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was drawn to the battle in the sky, Zhuowen quietly unfurled his 3 pairs of thunder wings. With a step, he turned into a bolt of thunder and fled in another direction. Zhuowen, you coward, you're actually running away again. At this moment, Huangfu Wuji was commanding the purple blades to deal with the 7 colored phoenix. As he looked towards where Zhuowen was, he suddenly discovered that at some unknown time, Zhuowen had actually sneaked away. Huangfu Wuji couldn't help but have an ugly expression. Unfortunately, with the 7 colored phoenix in front of him, Huangfu Wuji simply couldn't escape. Only after the 7 colored phoenix was destroyed would Huangfu Wuji be able to chase after Zhuowen. Zhuowen simply didn't pay any attention to the roaring Huangfu Wuji behind him. With a single step, he flew away at an even faster speed. This action immediately caused Huangfu Wuji to be enraged, But there was nothing he could do. Whoosh! A massive whip shadow suddenly swept out from the side, smashing towards Zhuowen's waist. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even Zhuowen's complexion couldn't help but change. Grand Lily, you bitch, when did I ever provoke you? You actually tried to stop me again and again. Zhuowen roared angrily, and his 3 pairs of lightning wings suddenly shrank. At the critical moment, he dodged the huge whip shadow that came from the side. A beautiful figure slowly swept over. Grand Lily's white clothes fluttered. Her expression was cold as she stared at Zhuowen and said indifferently, "What did you say about me just now? Do you dare to say it again? You bitch! Attacking me for no reason. Is there something wrong with your brain?" At this moment, Zhuowen had a belly full of anger. Originally, he could have escaped from Huangfu Wuji's pursuit, but that bitch Grand Lily had actually attacked him in every possible way, forcing him to stay here and face Huangfu Wuji. Grand Lily's pretty face darkened, and a trace of anger appeared in her beautiful eyes. This Zhuowen in front of her was really too rude. He actually dared to say such things to her. She was the proud daughter of heaven of the Grand Family, and also a monstrous genius in the top 10 rankings of the Azure Emperor decree. Wherever she went, she would receive awe and admiration. But this piece of trash that was engaged to her actually dared to say such things to her. Hand over the marriage contract and destroy your own cultivation. Then I, Grand Lily, will let you go. Remember, you only have one chance. If you miss it, you will die without a burial ground. Grand Lily quietly stood in front of Zhuowen, looking down at him from above. Her voice was cold, and her pretty face was filled with a natural expression. Who do you think you are? Do you really think that I want you as my wife? Let me tell you, I've even written the divorce papers. You can take it. Our engagement will naturally be completely broken. Zhuowen coldly snorted and took out the divorce papers that he had already written, his eyes coldly staring at Grand Lily. You reckless fool. Do you think you have the qualifications to divorce me? You don't even have the qualifications to carry my shoes. And you still want to divorce me? Grand Lily was finally enraged. With a wave of her right hand, the belt around her waist immediately turned into a tough whip. Countless whip shadows swept out, heading straight for Zhuowen. Infinite Sword Array. Great Sun Nirvana, Extinction. Seeing the countless whip shadows in front of him, Zhuowen's complexion changed. This Grand Lily was even stronger than Zhuowen. Zhuowen could not afford to be careless. He simultaneously used the Infinite Sword Array and Great Sun Nirvana. Countless sword lights shot out, circling around Zhuowen's body. At the same time, countless golden lights shot out, turning into a pillar of light that soared into the sky. A crack appeared in the void, and a 10,000-meter tall golden giant stepped out on terrifying golden flames. Ever since Zhuowen's Great Sun Nirvana had broken through to the 2nd level, the summoned golden giant had become even more terrifying, and its form had also changed. The 1st level's golden giant had 1 head and 2 arms. The 2nd level's golden giant had 2 heads and 4 arms. Its strength was far greater than the 1st level's golden giant. As the 2-headed, 4-armed giant descended, it waved its arms towards the countless whip shadows in front of it. Countless golden lights spread out, blocking Grand Lily's whip shadows. Everyone listen up. This Grand Lily is Zhuowen's fiancé. The Grand Family Patriarch, Grand Lily Haohai, once had a marriage agreement with our Zhuo family. After blocking the whip images, Zhuowen took a step in the air and hurriedly retreated, and then he suddenly shouted out loudly. Under the amplification of his origin energy, his voice was like surging thunder that spread out towards the surroundings. What? That Grand Lily is Zhuowen's fiancé? Isn't this too ridiculous? This Zhuowen is lying. The Grand Family is one of the 5 great families of the Imperial City. As for the so-called Zhuo family, I have never heard of it. It must be a small family. How can these 2 families be connected by marriage? Zhuowen's shout immediately stunned many of the surrounding warriors. Grand Lily was Zhuowen's fiancé. This news was too shocking, but most of them did not believe it. After all, there was no proof. Zhuowen! Shut up, shut up. Grand Lily's face changed. What she did not expect was that Zhuowen actually dared to say such news in public. Zhuowen could not be bothered with Grand Lily. Since Grand Lily did not abide by the agreement, and wanted to kill him in the heart of darkness, then she could not blame Zhuowen for being unjust. You don't believe it? This is the marriage agreement signed back then. It is written in black and white. Take a look, and you will know whether what I said is true or not. Zhuowen sneered and took out a scroll from his chest. He opened it abruptly, and the words on the scroll appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Numerous gazes gathered on the marriage agreement. What was written inside was indeed the marriage alliance between Zhuowen and Grand Lily. For a moment, the gazes of the surrounding warriors became extremely strange. They also faintly understood why Grand Lily targeted Zhuowen. It was probably all because of this marriage agreement. Grand family was a colossal force, while Zhuo family was insignificant. If the two families were really connected by marriage, Grand family would definitely be treated as a laughingstock, and Grand Lily would also be treated as a joke by others. Zhuowen, you shut up for me. I must kill you today. Feeling the mocking gazes of the surrounding warriors, Grand Lily's face turned green and white. She gave a delicate cry, and waved the soft whip in her hand again. Countless essence power gathered and transformed into a huge whip shadow in front of her. Rumble! The whip shadow lashed on the golden giant again. Immediately, the golden giant actually collapsed into countless golden lights under this whip, and turned into nothingness. The golden giant collapsed and the whip shadow changed again. It was like a venomous snake that was on the hunt. It swept towards Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. Zhuowen squinted his eyes, and the mental strength in his Naiwan palace swept out. There were hundreds of terrifying mental strength, and under Zhuowen's command, they controlled the infinite sword formation in front of him. Infinite sword formation, blood-weeping form. Zhuowen used the blood-weeping form again, and a drop of blood fell from the void. The infinite sword formation was dyed blood-red, and a mournful aura filled the air. Rumble! The whip shadow struck the greater infinite sword formation, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Following that, the greater infinite sword formation was broken, and countless sword beams shot towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen, you're dead meat. Granny Lily was filled with murderous intent, as she lashed out with her whip once again. The gigantic whip shadow in the void lashed out towards Zhuowen's body. The crushing power almost caused the surrounding space to distort. Puchi! The whip shadow smashed into Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood, and was sent flying backwards. It was only several hundred meters away that he was barely able to stop himself. At that moment, Zhuowen's complexion was pale, and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. His chest, which was shining with a golden light, was faintly caved in. His sternum actually showed signs of cracking under the whip's attack. The Grand Lily was too strong. It was much stronger than Huangfu Wuji. Just a casual whip shadow was enough to put Zhuowen into such a difficult situation. Because he had cultivated the great sun nirvana, the strength of Zhuowen's mortal body had almost surpassed the strength of an earth step spirit treasure. But under that whip, his sternum had actually felt as if it couldn't withstand it. Zhuowen is dead meat. Grand Lily's ranking is higher than Huangfu Wuji's, and she is also stronger than Huangfu Wuji. This Zhuowen won't be able to escape. The surrounding martial artists all shook their heads and sighed. This Zhuowen was actually very strong. Unfortunately, this boy had encountered Grand Lily and Huangfu Wuji, these two monstrous geniuses. His death this time could be considered a great injustice. On the other side of the battlefield, Huangfu Wuji was entangled with the Rainbow Phoenix. He also noticed that Zhuowen was being entangled by Grand Lily, and a mocking expression appeared on his face. He wasn't in a hurry to deal with the Rainbow Phoenix. No wonder Grand Lily wants to deal with this Zhuowen. It turns out that she has a marriage contract with this little bastard Zhuowen. How interesting. As he dealt with the Rainbow Phoenix, Huangfu Wuji was also silently watching the battle between Grand Lily and Zhuowen. Grand Lily instantly arrived above Zhuowen, looking down at Zhuowen as she coldly said, "I'll give you one more chance. Hand over the marriage contract, and I'll leave your corpse intact." Bitch! What this father wants to give you is not a marriage contract, but a divorce contract. Do you understand divorce contracts? Sooner or later, This father will divorce a bitch like you. Zhuowen wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, his words shocking everyone to death. As these words came out, all of the surrounding martial artists gave him a big thumbs up. This Zhuowen really had a personality. Even at death's door, he didn't beg for mercy, but instead cursed out loud. Stubborn fool. Then go die. After you die, the marriage contract on your body will be mine. Chapter 707. Fleeing in panic, looking at the terrifying whip shadow above his head, Zhuowen's expression changed. Grand Lily did not show any mercy this time. It was obvious that she wanted to kill him. Looks like I can only use the complete version of the boundless sword formation. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he flicked his right finger. Rays of sword light shot out. It was actually a grade 4 origin formation, the boundless sword aura. The limitless sword astral was one of the smaller sword formations of the greater limitless sword formation. Back then, Zhuowen had already fixed the flaws of the greater limitless sword formation, allowing it to recover the power of a grade 5 origin formation. Grade 5 origin formations were too rare. If others knew that he had the complete boundless sword formation, there would probably be many arcanists coveting the origin formation in his hands. Now that Grand Lily was giving him too much pressure, Zhuowen had no choice but to use the complete version of the boundless sword formation. Otherwise, he might really die in Grand Lily's hands. Whoosh! The limitless sword astral transformed into a stream of light and instantly drilled into one of the incomplete parts of the greater limitless sword formation. Instantly, the originally somewhat dim greater limitless sword formation glowed and emitted an extremely dazzling light. Boundless sword formation's blood-weeping style. The boundless sword formation buzzed together. After recovering the grade 5 origin formation, the power of the boundless sword formation increased by thousands of times. Above the void, there were actually countless cracks. Countless drops of blood sprayed out from the countless cracks. In the pitter-patter, there was actually a dense rain of blood in this area. The smell of blood permeated the air. The boundless sword formation turned into countless rays of blood. It was like the surrounding rain of blood, forming a blood-colored hurricane. Boom! The huge whip shadow arrived in an instant and blasted onto the blood-colored hurricane. Following that, the whip shadow that was like a clay ox entering the sea stagnated. He blocked it. The power of Zhuowen's boundless sword formation has increased. When the whip shadow was blocked, Grand Lily's beautiful eyes narrowed, and a trace of surprise appeared on her charming face. However, it won't be that easy to stop me with just this. Great Lily's beautiful eyes flickered slightly. She waved her jade-like hand, and the soft whip in her hand scattered out. Immediately, densely packed whip shadows appeared all over the sky. They were just like numerous agile pythons that continuously swam around. Snake summoning whip. With a delicate shout, the countless whip shadows transformed into countless pythons. With the sound of the air being torn apart, the pythons formed by the whip shadows swept towards the greater limitless sword formation below. Rumble! Countless pythons bombarded. Even the greater limitless sword formation actually found it somewhat strenuous to withstand, and actually retreated repeatedly. Zhuowen, prepare to die. Stepping on countless python phantoms, Grand Lily was like a seductive snake woman. She suddenly rushed towards Zhuowen, who was inside the greater limitless sword formation. She waved the soft whip in her hand again, and swept it towards Zhuowen's chest. Greater limitless sword formation. Keep it. Since the great limitless sword formation was unable to stop the Grand Lily, Zhuowen immediately kept it into his spirit ring, and patted the demon-suppressing green coffin on his back. Bang! The demon-suppressing green coffin swept out and blocked in front of Zhuowen. At the same time, Zhuowen even opened the demon-suppressing green coffin by 1/3, and a terrifying pressure flowed out. Boom! The soft whip swept over and struck the surface of the demon-suppressing green coffin. With a clanging sound, countless sparks flew. Grand Lily squinted her eyes and realized that her soft whip was actually unable to leave a single mark on the surface of the demon-suppressing green coffin. What a tough coffin! Grand Lily's charming face revealed an astonished expression. Her soft whip was an earth-rank extreme spiritual treasure with peerless power. When it struck the surface of this strange green coffin, it was actually unable to leave a single mark. There was also the pressure that was released from the demon-suppressing green coffin, causing Grand Lily's delicate body to sink slightly. The origin energy in her body surged out and instantly neutralized the pressure. You have quite a lot of trump cards. Unfortunately, even so, you can't escape death. Grand Lily coldly snorted and waved her soft whip again, continuously striking the green coffin. Clanging sounds continuously rang out. As for Zhuowen, he hid behind the green coffin and retreated continuously. Blood flowed out of his mouth, and his face was gloomy to the extreme. Grand Lily was much stronger than him, and right now, he did not have the slightest bit of strength to fight back. If the demon-suppressing green coffin opens a little more, the pressure that flows out should be able to temporarily suppress this bitch. His eyes flickered as Zhuowen stared at the demon-suppressing green coffin. Right now, he had used all his trump cards, but he was still not a match for Grand Lily. If he still did not leave this place, he would only be defeated. Zhuowen, saying that you are a coward is still too easy for you. You are so spineless, yet you still want to marry into our grand family. You are truly delusional. Grand Lily sneered again and again. The soft whip in her hand continuously lashed out. Although the devil-suppressing green coffin was extremely hard, the aftershock of every strike would pass through the devil-suppressing green coffin and into Zhuowen's body. With Zhuowen's cultivation, it was impossible for him to withstand too many attacks, and he would probably die from heavy injuries. She, Grand Lily, wanted to use this kind of stupid method to slowly torture Zhuowen to death. I can't just sit here and wait for death. Otherwise, I'll definitely die. Another whip shadow struck out, and the demon-suppressing green coffin flew out with Zhuowen once again, while Zhuowen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, he seemed to be able to feel the burning pain in his internal organs, and he knew that if this continued, he would definitely not be able to hold on, and had to find an opportunity to escape. Demon-suppressing green coffin, open for me. In the process of retreating, Zhuowen shouted loudly, and once again slapped the lid of the demon-suppressing green coffin. The lid that was originally 1/3 open, under Zhuowen's attack, opened a little more, and actually opened half of it. Rumble! An even more terrifying pressure suddenly surged out from the green coffin, and a strange bloody aura leaked out from the gap of the green coffin. Through this gap, Zhuowen could even see a pair of strange, soul-stirring, blood-red eyes from within the gloomy coffin. Zhuowen was all too familiar with this pair of bloody eyes, as they belonged to the blood demon. Brat! Let me out, and I'll help you kill all the people around you. How about that? A hoarse voice rang out in Zhuowen's heart. This was the voice of the blood demon. This blood demon's vitality was really tenacious, and after being worn by Zhuowen and absorbing energy for almost a year, it was still alive and kicking. No need. I just need to borrow your pressure to escape from this bitch's pursuit. Zhuowen did not look at the pair of bloody eyes in the coffin. He was very clear that the primordial blood demon was much stronger than him, and if he directly looked at it, he might be bewitched. Brat, let me out, and I can bestow you with supreme power to help you break through to the Emperor realm. How about that? The blood demon did not give up, and its hoarse and seductive voice still rang out in Zhuowen's heart, bewitching Zhuowen's heart. Scram! Zhuowen growled. He slapped the green coffin and slammed it into the ground. Instantly, a terrifying pressure spread out in an area of dozens of miles. The sudden spreading of the terrifying pressure caused Grand Lily, who was chasing after Sumo, to tremble and fall to the ground, unable to walk in the air. The pressure was much stronger than before, and even she could not walk in the air. What a terrifying pressure! What's going on with that green coffin on Zhuowen? That little bastard! How can it release such a terrifying pressure? Grand Lily's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. At that moment, Zhuowen's condition was extremely bad. Due to Grand Lily's attack earlier, he had suffered severe internal injuries. Now that he had forcefully opened half of the demon-suppressing green coffin, the backlash had exceeded the range that he could endure. Now every moment was torture to him, and his entire body was in pain as if thousands of ants were gnawing on him. Let's go. Landing beside the demon-suppressing green coffin, Zhuowen carried it on his back and fled into the depths of the dense forest. Damn you, Zhuowen. Let's see where you can run to. Seeing that Zhuowen was about to escape, Graham Lily clenched her teeth, lifted her foot, and chased after Zhuowen. Due to the existence of the demon-suppressing green coffin's pressure, Graham Lily could not fly in the air to chase after Su Mo. However, she was extremely powerful, and she relied on the profound origin power in her body to withstand the pressure, and she was able to move quickly on the ground. Luckily, Zhuowen was severely injured and his speed was not fast. Thus, Graham Lily was able to keep up with Zhuowen, and her speed was even slightly faster than Zhuowen's. Soon, the chasing and fleeing figures disappeared from everyone's sight. Damn! They actually ran away. Huang Fuwuji was still entangled with the Rainbow Phoenix. Now that he saw Graham Lily and Zhuowen disappear from his field of vision, he couldn't help but reveal an anxious expression. With a loud shout, the three mountain-like purple blades in the air slammed down on the seven-colored phoenix. The seven-colored phoenix let out a sorrowful cry as it was cut into three pieces by the three purple blades, turning into countless seven-colored sparks that rained down. Whoosh! As the rainbow phoenix was destroyed, Huang Fuwuji took a step forward, rushing in the direction that Zhuowen and Graham Lily had gone. For a time, the only people left in the open space were the gathered martial artists. As soon as Zhuowen, Graham Lily, and Huang Fuwuji left, the group of martial artists tacitly separated, vigilantly staring at each other. This was the peach blossom origin diagram. As long as they were not from the same county, they were all enemies. They would not leave their backs to their enemies. Whoosh! As these martial artists were vigilant against each other, Huang Fuwuji returned, his face gloomy to the extreme. Although Zhuowen and Graham Lily were not fast, they were not slow either. By the time he broke through the rainbow phoenix and chased after them, he had already lost track of them. Humph! Even if I don't chase after them, that Zhuowen is dead for sure. Huang Fuwuji's eyes flashed. He knew that with Graham Lily chasing after him, Zhuowen would definitely die. This was because Graham Lily was stronger than him, and by a large margin. Although this was the case, Huang Fuwuji was still very unhappy. In his opinion, he should have had an overwhelming advantage against Zhuowen. But even after using his ultimate move, the extreme purple annihilation, he still wasn't able to kill Zhuowen. To him, this was a great humiliation. Thinking of this, Huang Fuwuji's eyes filled with anger. As he looked at the martial artists in front of him, he had to vent his anger. It just so happens that I'm missing some seals. Then I'll take some from you. Chapter 708. Falling off a cliff. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two whistling sounds rang out as two figures, one fleeing and one chasing, flashed through the dense forest, stirring up the dried leaves on the ground. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was as gloomy as water. He turned his gaze to the back and saw the approaching Glen Lily. His expression grew uglier and uglier. This Glen Lily was like a sticky candy, sticking to him without letting go. How hateful! Zhuowen, are you still trying to escape? Glen Lily's cold voice rang out from behind. With a wave of her jade-like hand, the soft whip immediately swept towards Zhuowen's back like a snake. Damn bitch, as long as I, Zhuowen, am alive, I'll definitely repay you tenfold or 100-fold in the future. Sensing the whip coming from behind, Zhuowen cursed in a low voice. With a stomp of his foot, he forcefully twisted his body and placed the green coffin in front of him. Rumble! The soft whip struck the green coffin, and a thunderous sound rang out. A terrifying shockwave spread out and fiercely slammed into Zhuowen's chest. Puffed! Zhuowen spat out another mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. This Glen Lily was too hateful. She actually dared to fight with him today. The two of them pursued each other for the time for an entire incense stick to burn before Zhuowen's expression suddenly turned grim. Because a cliff had suddenly appeared ahead of them. Stomp! With a stomp of his foot, Zhuowen stopped at the edge of the cliff. He turned around and coldly stared at the Glen Lily behind him, who had also slowed down. Zhuowen, Looks like even the heavens want you dead. A few dozen meters away, the corners of Glen Lily's mouth curled into a mocking smile. She slowly walked towards Zhuan with a victorious expression on her face. She had never imagined that a cliff would appear in front of her. This time, Zhuan would not be able to escape even if he had wings. One had to know that the cliffs of the Heart of Darkness were extremely strange. The gravity here was much more terrifying than other places. Even Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could not walk on the cliffs of the Heart of Darkness. The cliffs here were tens of thousands of meters high. Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could not walk on air. If they fell down this cliff, they would definitely die without a burial place. Zhuan, hand over the spirit ring obediently, and destroy your own cultivation. I, the Grand Lily, promise to spare your life. Granny Lily walked towards Zhuan step by step, her voice cold and arrogant. Her beautiful eyes stared at Zhuan with a trace of passion. She knew that Zhuan had a lot of good things on him, so she didn't want to let go of Zhuan's spirit ring. Humph. Do you really think you have me? Zhuan sneered, and the demon-suppressing green coffin suddenly stopped on the ground. Countless blood chi rushed out from the cracks, and a pair of blood eyes stared at the Grand Lily in front of him through the cracks. Being caught off guard, Glen Lily seemed to be possessed as he stared deeply at the pair of blood-red eyes in the green coffin. He was completely stunned on the spot. Good chance. Zhuan's eyes flickered, and he rushed towards Glen Lily with the bone spear in his hand, thrusting it towards Glen Lily's snow-white neck. When the bone spear tip was about to reach Glen Lily's neck, Glen Lily, who was originally in a daze, suddenly woke up. Feeling the bone spear getting closer and closer, Glen Lily shouted and twisted her waist to the side. Psst! The bone spear tip instantly swept past Glen Lily's hair, and a strand of black hair fell down like catkins in the wind. At the same time, a trace of blood appeared on the left side of Glen Lily's face, and traces of blood flowed down. What a fast reaction. After missing his attack, Zhuan stomped his foot and hurriedly retreated. Glen Lily was much stronger than him, and since his attack didn't hit, Zhuan naturally didn't want to tangle with Glen Lily. Zhuan, you deserve to die. You actually dared to sneak attack me. Gently wiping the left side of her face, Glen Lily cried out in shock. This Zhuan actually dared to cut her face. Although it was only a trace of blood, to a girl who loved beauty, this was more serious than killing her. Whoosh! The moment Zhuan retreated, Glen Lily also moved. She swung her jade-like hand again, and the soft whip instantly coiled around Zhuan's right leg like a spirit snake. Bang! With his right leg coiled, Zhuan directly smashed onto the ground. His chest couldn't help but hold a breath of air, and he violently vomited blood. Zhuan, I want you dead. Glen Lily almost went crazy. Her face being cut had already touched her reverse scale. She swung her jade-like hand again, and Zhuan was directly thrown out, flying towards the cliff behind him. At this moment, Zhuan didn't have any extra strength left. His injuries were too serious, and he couldn't even move a finger. He could only allow his body to fly towards the cliff behind him. Glen Lily didn't seem to be satisfied. She swung her soft whip again, and ruthlessly smashed it on Zhuan's chest. Zhuan felt as if his internal organs were being burned by fire. He violently vomited a mouthful of blood, and his entire body was like a meteorite, rapidly falling towards the bottom of the cliff. Whoosh! At the edge of the cliff, the originally open green coffin suddenly closed. After that, the demon-suppressing green coffin actually fell down the cliff by itself and flew towards Zhuan. Standing at the edge of the cliff, Glen Lily covered her left cheek, and her beautiful face was as cold as frost. To her, Zhuan's death was nothing to be regretted. Trash will always be trash. Her right hand wiped her left cheek, and the blood was immediately wiped away. Glen Lily no longer paid attention to the bottom of the cliff, and with a step, she flew towards the dense forest behind her. Since Zhuan was already dead, she naturally wouldn't stay here for long. Whoosh! At the bottom of the endless cliff, Zhuan was like a powerless butterfly, continuously falling downwards. At this moment, Zhuan was seriously injured, and his entire body was powerless. He probably didn't even have the strength to move. Looking at the cliff above him that was getting further and further away, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, and a calm expression appeared on his face. He didn't know why, but he seemed so calm in the face of death. Slightly tilting his head, Zhuowen's gaze focused on the mark on his right palm. He knew that his only chance of survival was to abandon the mark on his hand. At that time, the Azure Emperor would naturally teleport him out of the peach blossom origin diagram. However, he wasn't willing to give up. He had once promised Mu Chenxue that he would enter the Divine Academy to find her. The Battle of the Nine Counties was his only chance. If he lost this opportunity, it would be impossible for him to enter a colossus like the Divine Academy in the future. I'm not willing to give up. His gaze flickered. Zhuowen was extremely unwilling to give up just like that. His right hand clenched into a fist. At this moment, Zhuowen hesitated. Whoosh! Just as Zhuowen was about to fall to the bottom of the cliff, a green light swept over from above and stopped below him. Zhuowen only felt a chill on his back, and his falling speed actually slowed down a lot until it stopped. Demon-suppressing green coffin? This green light was the demon-suppressing green coffin that had flown down from the cliff on its own. However, what made Zhuowen puzzled was that he was heavily injured and didn't have the strength to control the demon-suppressing green coffin. Why did the demon-suppressing green coffin automatically fly over to protect its master? Blood demon. His eyes flashing, Zhuowen immediately thought of the blood demon inside the demon-suppressing green coffin. Other than him being able to control the demon-suppressing green coffin, the blood demon sealed inside also had a portion of control. Kid, you're quite smart. A hoarse voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. It was the voice of the blood demon. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen said with some doubt, "You actually saved me? What a rare sight. You must know that back then at the blood demon's inheritance ground, I was the one who brought the demon-suppressing green coffin to Big Brother Hantian to suppress you. You're actually so kind." Humph. Do you think this demon is willing to save you? That bastard Lu Hantian tied this demon's life to the demon-suppressing green coffin, and you are now the master of the demon-suppressing green coffin. If you die, then the demon-suppressing green coffin will be greatly injured, and at that time, this demon will also suffer. The blood demon's voice sounded again, his tone extremely unfriendly. It was obvious that he was extremely resentful towards Lu Hantian. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded, finally understanding why the blood demon wanted to save him. Big Brother Hantian is too kind. With a low sigh, Zhuowen's gratitude towards Lu Hantian grew even stronger. He knew that Lu Hantian had purposely tied the blood demon's life to the demon-suppressing green coffin. This way, not only would the blood demon not dare to devour him, he would also have no choice but to save his life when he was in danger. Kid, let's make a deal. How about it? Suddenly, the blood demon's voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. His voice was somewhat bewitching. Deal? You want me to let you out? Raising his eyebrows, Zhuowen said with interest. Don't worry. This demon knows that you won't agree to this request, so I won't make it. The blood demon said indifferently. Oh, then what's your request? Zhuowen asked curiously. Humph. You also know that this demon is an ancient sacred level creature, and this demon's mind has endless ancient secret techniques. These secret techniques are extremely precious to you. If you can agree to my request, this demon can help you cultivate. How about it? The blood demon said proudly. Help me cultivate? Yes. For you humans, breaking through to the Four Venerables realm and the Emperor Power realm might be very difficult. But for this demon, it's actually not difficult. This demon can help you break through quickly. The blood demon's face was filled with pride. It was an ancient sacred level creature that had lived since ancient times. Whether it was knowledge or experience, it was much deeper than Zhuowen's. Then what's your request? After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen did not directly agree. The blood demon's request was indeed very tempting. With the help of such a terrifying creature, Zhuowen's cultivation would definitely be able to advance by leaps and bounds. Moreover, Zhuowen was currently heavily injured and powerless. If he wanted to quickly recover, he would have to rely on the blood demon's power. This demon's request is very simple. When your strength reaches the Emperor Power Realm, release this demon's seal. At that time, your strength should not be afraid of this demon. Even if this demon comes out, it won't be a big threat to you. What do you think? The blood demon's voice sounded again, and there was a hint of hope in its tone. Although the blood demon was arrogant, it did not want to be sealed in the demon-suppressing green coffin forever, so it could only compromise with Zhuowen. After I reach the Emperor Power Realm, I'll release your seal. Chapter 709. Blood-sucking technique. This deal is beneficial to you, the blood demon eagerly said. After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen nodded. The deal that the blood demon proposed was indeed beneficial to him. He nodded and said, I accept this deal. Now that I am seriously injured, you must help me heal. Zhuowen knew that if the blood demon was sincere in making a deal with him, he would not refuse his proposal. Sure enough, as soon as Zhuowen mentioned healing, the blood demon earnestly nodded and said, Don't worry. We are now in a cooperative relationship. I will not let you die so easily. The demon-suppressing green coffin has limited my strength, so I cannot control the green coffin to bring you back to the cliff. I can only go to the bottom of the cliff first. After the blood devil finished speaking, he slowly descended. His speed became extremely slow. After about an hour, Zhuowen finally landed safely at the bottom of the cliff. The bottom of the cliff was an abandoned canyon. In the center of the canyon, there was an underground river. The river water was inky black and looked extremely strange. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stared at the river in front of him. He could feel that this river was not simple. It actually gave him a faint sense of danger. Whoosh! There was the sound of water splashing as a several dozen foot-long python rushed out from the river. It directly threw itself at Zhuowen, its sharp fangs gleaming with a cold light. Zhuowen's complexion changed. He was seriously injured, and his entire body was without strength. Although this python was not strong, with Zhuowen's current condition, he was not its match. Pung! The demon-suppressing green coffin suddenly moved in front of Zhuowen. The python crashed into the green coffin, its head shattering and blood splashing out. It died a miserable death beneath the green coffin. Boy, the injuries on your body are too heavy. If you want to recover normally, you will need at least half a year. That is far too long. The blood demon's voice once again sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen bitterly smiled. He had fought with Huangfu Wuji and Grand Lily, these two monstrous geniuses. In particular, Grand Lily had wanted to kill him from the very beginning. If it weren't for his great luck, then he might have really been killed by Grand Lily. It was obvious how serious Zhuowen's injuries were at this moment. If he hadn't cultivated the Nirvana Vairocana, and if the strength of his body didn't surpass ordinary earthly rank spirit treasures, he probably wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Could it be that you have a way to heal my injuries in a short period of time? Zhuowen suddenly asked. He knew that the blood demon wouldn't casually say such things. Since the blood demon had brought it up, there might really be a way for him to quickly recover. This demon has a secret technique in my sea of consciousness. This secret technique can absorb the blood and qi of living creatures to replenish myself, allowing a cultivator's injuries to quickly recover through the use of blood and qi. If you cultivate this secret technique, you should be able to fully recover your strength within a month, Blood Devil suddenly said. Absorb the blood and qi of living creatures to restore my injuries? Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of surprise. This sort of secret technique that forcefully seized blood and qi could be said to be extremely evil. Moreover, Zhuowen didn't believe that such a secret technique wouldn't have any side effects. As if seeing the hesitation on Zhuowen's face, the blood demon's voice sounded out once more. Are you worried about the side effects of this secret technique? This demon can completely help you resolve the side effects of this secret technique. Oh, you're so kind? Zhuowen asked, a bit suspicious. The blood demon lightly smiled and said, You can rest assured. This demon also has his own selfish motives. The side effects of this secret technique are greatly beneficial to this demon. Cultivating this secret technique is a win-win situation for both of us. As the blood demon spoke, the doubts in Zhuowen's heart were dispelled. After all, He and the blood demon had already reached an agreement, so there was no need for the blood demon to trick him. Then pass on this secret technique to me. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said indifferently, extend your hand to the green coffin. This demon can pass on the secret technique to you, through the demon-suppressing green coffin, the blood demon said indifferently. Zhuowen shrugged. His right hand moved at the speed of a turtle, as he extended it towards the green coffin in front of him. At this moment, he was heavily injured and almost powerless. Just the simple act of extending his hand was extremely difficult for him. After a full 15 minutes, Zhuowen barely managed to place his finger on the demon-suppressing green coffin. However, he was already sweating profusely. His forehead was covered with soybean-sized beads of sweat. Looks like your injuries are really serious. Even extending your hand is so difficult. The blood demon's voice sounded again, but this time, it sounded rather surprised. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and pass on the secret technique to me, Zhuowen said coldly as he shook his head. The blood demon did not reply. However, Zhuowen could feel a burning sensation from his right hand that was placed on the green coffin. Following that, Zhuowen discovered that detailed information appeared in the depths of his forehead. This should be the secret technique that the blood demon was talking about. A hint of joy flashed in his eyes. Zhuowen closed his eyes and silently comprehended this secret technique. After 2 hours of comprehension, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up. He finally knew the use of this secret technique. The secret technique that the blood demon passed on was called the Great Bloodsucking Technique. It was a rather cruel auxiliary secret technique. Its main function was to absorb the blood and qi of living creatures to restore one's profound qi. Moreover, once the Great Bloodsucking Technique was used, it would completely suck the blood and qi of living creatures dry, turning them into mummies. It could be said to be extremely cruel. However, according to the blood demon's introduction, the effect of the Great Bloodsucking Technique was very significant. It could greatly increase the speed of profound qi recovery. Of course, this kind of heaven-defying secret technique also had huge side effects. Once one absorbed too much blood and qi of living creatures, a part of the resentment of those living creatures would remain in one's body. This resentment was extremely harmful to the warrior. Of course, the blood demon was an ancient creature. This resentment was not only harmless to him, but also beneficial. Therefore, even if Zhuowen cultivated this secret technique, with the blood demon's existence, he did not need to be afraid of the side effects of the resentment. It's not difficult to comprehend a secret technique like the Great Bloodsucking Technique. With your talent, you should have comprehended it almost. Seeing Zhuowen open his eyes, the blood demon said indifferently, Indeed, almost. Now, I can try the effect of the Great Bloodsucking Technique. As he spoke, Zhuowen's gaze converged on the corpse of the giant python not far away. Although this giant python's strength was not high, its blood and qi were quite vigorous. It was quite useful for Zhuowen to experiment with the Great Bloodsucking Technique. Touching the giant python's corpse with his right hand, Zhuowen silently operated the Great Bloodsucking Technique. Suddenly, the vigorous blood and qi of the giant python's body flowed into Zhuowen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. Zhuowen's originally pale face became quite rosy at this moment. However, the giant python's blood and qi were simply a drop in the bucket for Zhuowen. At least, Zhuowen's current state of weakness had improved a lot. Slowly standing up, Zhuowen squeezed his palms, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. The Great Bloodsucking Technique was indeed wonderful. At this moment, although his yuan qi was far from recovered, he could at least move like an ordinary person. Boy, there are many powerful creatures hidden in the underground river. Although you are seriously injured and can't use much of your martial strength, your mental strength should still be intact. Relying on your mental strength, you should be able to deal with some of the creatures in the underground river. The blood demon's voice sounded again. Zhuowen nodded and flicked his finger. Instantly, countless cold lights shot out. Under the control of his mental strength, the greater limitless sword formation revolved around his body, emitting a cold light. The creatures in this underground river are extremely aggressive. Just now, this demon concealed your aura. So until now, no creature has attacked you. Now that this demon is no longer hiding, you can deal with it yourself. The blood and chi of these creatures will be of great help to you." The blood demon's voice became softer and softer, and finally fell silent. The demon-suppressing green coffin slowly fell to the ground. It was obvious that the blood demon had fallen into a deep sleep. After all, the blood demon was suppressed by the demon-suppressing green coffin. The sealed blood demon had basically fallen into a deep sleep. On the cliff, Zhuowen had forcefully opened half of the coffin lid, which had inadvertently awakened the blood demon. Of course, the coffin lid was only half open, so the blood demon didn't stay awake for long. Now that the time was up, the blood demon naturally fell into a deep sleep again. "Boy, don't forget our deal. If you want to wake this demon up again, you have to open at least half of the green coffin." In the end, the blood demon's voice gradually faded into nothingness. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Once the blood demon fell asleep, Zhuowen could no longer hide his aura. The underground river in front of him surged violently, and countless sounds of water splashing could be heard. Following that, densely packed black shadows rushed out from the underground river, covering the sky and earth as they rushed towards Zhuowen. Looking carefully, Zhuowen discovered that these black shadows were all the pythons that had been killed by the demon-suppressing green coffin. These pythons were of different sizes. The large ones were dozens of feet long, and the small ones were only a few feet long. The larger these pythons were, the stronger they were, and the more vigorous their blood chi was. Greater Infinite Sword Formation, Blood Weeping Form. Zhuowen let out a low roar, and the mental energy in his Naiwen Palace burst out. In an instant, the area around the Greater Infinite Sword Formation flashed with countless bloody lights, turning into an Azura blood hell. Countless pythons rushed into the Greater Infinite Sword Formation and let out mournful cries. Then, all of them exploded into a bloody mist that filled the air. On the other hand, Zhuowen didn't hold back. He silently channeled the Great Blood Absorption technique in his body. The blood chi of countless pythons was absorbed by Zhuowen, and the injuries in Zhuowen's body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Awesome! Feeling the injuries in his body gradually healing, Zhuowen couldn't help but feel comfortable all over. He roared at the sky and channeled the Great Blood Absorption technique even more vigorously. Endless blood chi poured into Zhuowen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. Logically speaking, an ordinary person wouldn't be able to withstand such a huge amount of blood chi entering their body. However, Zhuowen's physical body was terrifyingly strong, so he didn't feel anything at all. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this period, Zhuowen had been sitting cross-legged in front of the underground river, surrounded by the Greater Infinite Sword Formation. Once a living creature rushed out from the underground river, it would explode into a bloody mist and be absorbed by Zhuowen. Chapter 710. Underground River. My injuries have finally healed completely, but the side effects of this secret technique are a little troublesome. Slowly getting up, if one looked closely, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with a strange scarlet light, causing Zhuowen to look exceptionally demonic at this moment. In a month's time, Zhuowen had basically killed all the pythons in the underground river. Now the underground river was like a pool of stagnant water, without any ripples at all, and the shore had become a bloody hell. With so many pythons killed, the resentment produced was extremely terrifying. This resentment accumulated in Zhuowen's body, causing Zhuowen's mind to be filled with thoughts of killing from time to time, which was why his eyes were so bloodshot. However, Zhuowen's willpower was far stronger than ordinary people. Although the resentment accumulated in his body was very strong, it was forcefully suppressed by Zhuowen. Bending down, he carried the demon-suppressing green coffin on his shoulder. Instantly, Zhuowen realized that the resentment in his body was being absorbed by the demon-suppressing green coffin like a tidal wave, and the scarlet light in Zhuowen's eyes also slowly receded. Feeling the resentment in his body dissipating, Zhuowen knew that this resentment had been absorbed by the blood demon. Kid, there is a beast spirit at the bottom of the underground river. Help me obtain this beast spirit. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Xiao He. Hearing this voice, Zhuowen's face was filled with joy. He never thought that Xiao He would wake up at this moment. Ever since Xiao He had materialized his armor spirit in order to save Zhuowen in the Baichuan Marquis residence, he had not woken up since then, and Zhuowen had always felt guilty about it. Now that he saw that Xiao He had awakened, Zhuowen was naturally extremely happy. This dragon lord's vitality has been greatly damaged, and this awakening is only temporary. This dragon lord can sense that there is a beast spirit at the bottom of the underground river. If you obtain this beast spirit, this dragon lord will devour this beast spirit, and this dragon lord should be able to completely awaken. Xiao He's voice sounded extremely tired, and his voice became softer and softer. Brat! This dragon lord cannot be awake for too long. Remember, you must retrieve that beast spirit, otherwise this dragon lord can only continue to sleep. After saying this, Xiao He's voice completely disappeared. Zhuowen knew that Xiao He had probably fallen into a deep sleep again. Beast spirit? Staring at the river ahead, Zhuowen's eyes flickered. Zhuowen was no stranger to beast spirits. A beast spirit was the spirit of a meta-beast. Meta-beasts that possessed a beast spirit were basically at the fourth reverend realm and above. It was just like how a human martial artist would form a nascent soul in his dantian when his cultivation reached the fourth reverend realm. When a meta-beast's strength reached the four supremes realm, its body would also nurture a meta-beast spirit. In fact, this beast spirit's function was equivalent to the nascent soul of a four supremes realm martial artist. Once the meta-beast's physical body was destroyed, it could still rely on the beast spirit to survive. However, its strength would be greatly reduced, and it would not be able to come into contact with the outside world for a long time. Without a physical body, the power of a beast spirit would continuously decrease over time. Therefore, most beast spirits would seal themselves in a remote place and wait for their vitality to recover and rebuild their physical body. Zhuowen did not expect that there would actually be a beast spirit at the bottom of the underground river. If it was not for Xiao He's reminder, he would have missed it. Let's go in and take a look. Since the beast spirit was extremely important to Xiao He, Zhuowen would not sit back and do nothing. With a stomp of his foot, he jumped into the underground river. The water of the underground river was ink black. After Zhuowen dived into the water, his vision was not very far, and he could only rely on his mental strength to explore his surroundings. It's really deep. After diving for more than 2 hours, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that he had not reached the bottom of the river. He had already dived for nearly 1,000 meters. After diving for another hour, Zhuowen finally reached the bottom of the river. Stepping on the soft riverbed, Zhuowen used his mental strength to vigilantly survey his surroundings. Using his mental strength, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that there were layers of cliffs at the bottom of the riverbed. At the bottom of the cliffs, there was a dilapidated cave entrance. This cave entrance was extremely deep, as if it was bottomless. The beast spirit should be in the cave entrance. There was nothing else around the cliffs. Zhuowen knew that the chances of the beast spirit being in the cave entrance were very high. Thinking of this, Zhuowen stomped his foot and turned into a shadow as he flew into the cave entrance. Inside the cave entrance was a narrow tunnel. The tunnel was filled with bumpy grooves, like the skin of a toad. It was extremely ugly. After walking for about 10 minutes, Zhuowen discovered that the tunnel actually curved upwards. With a stomp of his foot, with the buoyancy of the water current, Zhuowen's speed increased by a lot as he floated upwards. After another 10 minutes, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Following that, Zhuowen leaped up and executed his movement skill, landing in a stone cave. There was not the slightest bit of water flow in this place. Instead, there was air flowing. This made Zhuowen rather surprised that there was such a space at the bottom of the underground river. It seems that the beast spirit is in there. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Zhuowen knew that for there to be such an unsuitable space at the bottom of the underground river, there must be some kind of secret inside. Let's go in and take a look. As he spoke, Zhuowen flew towards the space in front of him. A white light flashed in front of him, causing Zhuowen's speed to increase by a lot. When Zhuowen completely arrived at the white light, a strong white light flashed past, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily squint his eyes. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen suddenly discovered that what appeared in front of him was a rather spacious stone hall. In the middle of the stone hall, there were two balls of light floating quietly. The ball of light on the left had a baby-like figure curled up quietly. The ball of light on the right was not in the shape of a human. Instead, it was in the shape of a tiger or leopard. A nascent soul and a beast spirit? Looking at the ball of light in the middle, Zhuowen's eyes lit up, and a look of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. A beast spirit was naturally of no use to Zhuowen. However, a nascent soul was much more beneficial to Zhuowen. A nascent soul contained the powerful energy of a fourth revered martial artist. If Zhuowen could obtain it, then Zhuowen could use the rich energy of the nascent soul to break through to the ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm. The aura of a beast spirit. The moment Zhuowen stepped into the stone hall, Xiaohei's voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind once again. Following that, a black light flashed out from between Zhuowen's brows and turned into a Xiaohei dog. At this moment, Xiaohei's spirit body was rather dim. It was obvious that it was the aftereffect of forcefully materializing the armor spirit back then. Until now, it had not fully recovered. Whoosh! In an instant, Xiaohei pounced on the beast spirit. There was a thirsty light in its eyes, causing Zhuowen's hair to stand on end. Xiaohei's arrival immediately alerted the beast spirit. The beast spirit in the ball of light suddenly opened its eyes and stared at Xiaohei, who was flying towards it with a ferocious glint in its eyes. A terrifying aura poured out. You dare to compete with me in terms of aura? You're courting death. Xiaohei cursed. An even more terrifying aura was released from its small body and instantly suppressed the aura on the beast spirit. Roar! The moment Xiaohei released the aura from its body, the beast spirit in the ball of light was filled with fear. With a whoosh, it actually fled towards the exit. Xiaohei's aura was too terrifying. This was definitely a meta beast of a higher level than it. You're already right in front of me. Do you think you can still escape? Xiaohei laughed coldly. With a wave of its little paw, an ink-black energy surged out and turned into a rope. It tied up the escaping beast spirit. Then, Xiaohei pounced on it ungracefully and opened its mouth to take a bite. In an instant, the beast spirit was swallowed into Xiaohei's stomach. Xiaohei's originally dim spirit body became more solid after swallowing the beast spirit. This beast spirit's power is too weak. It's only from the Xuanzuan realm. The energy of this beast spirit is too little. Xiaohei smacked its lips and complained unhappily. Looking at the shameless Xiaohei, Zhuowen's face was filled with black lines. However, he was extremely happy. Although Xiaohei's vitality had not fully recovered, at least it would not fall into a deep sleep after swallowing the beast spirit. Kid, your luck is pretty good. There is actually a nascent soul in this stone hall. However, this nascent soul was not too strong when it was alive. It was only from the Xuanzuan realm. Xiaohei glanced at the nascent soul and lightly said. Zhuowen nodded. Even if it was only the nascent soul of a Xuanzuan realm martial artist, the energy contained within was enough to help Zhuowen break through to the ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm. It was even possible that he could reach a higher level. If he could smoothly break through to the ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm, then by relying on his spear intent, he wouldn't need to fear Huangfu Wuji. As for Grand Lily, Zhuowen wasn't too sure. If his guess wasn't wrong, then Grand Lily's cultivation should be around the ultimate eight-wheel emperor realm. When Grand Lily had chased after Zhuowen, he was afraid that Grand Lily hadn't used its full strength. If Grand Lily had used its full strength, then even Zhuowen would have been in danger. As he thought of Grand Lily and Huangfu Wuji, Zhuowen's eyes filled with a thick chill. These two people had forced Zhuowen into such a sorry state. He, Zhuowen, would not let this matter rest. I must increase my strength as soon as possible. Zhuowen knew that if he wanted to settle this debt, then he would have to increase his own strength. With Zhuowen's current strength, he could definitely enter the top 10 rankings of the Azure Emperor Proclamation. However, entering the top 5 would be difficult. There were only 5 spots available to enter Jiaxin College. Only the top 5 geniuses on the Azure Emperor Proclamation would be able to obtain a spot. Kid, this nascent soul has suffered heavy injuries. It has actually fallen into a coma. Take it and refine it. Xiao He arrived in front of the nascent soul and pulled it out with its small claws. With a wave of its claws, the nascent soul was tossed into Zhuowen's hands. The moment Zhuowen touched the nascent soul, he could feel an extremely surging energy within it. This energy far surpassed what an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator should possess. There's only a month left until the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram adventure. I hope that I can thoroughly refine this nascent soul in this month. Zhuowen had nearly 100 marks on his body. He knew that entering the top 100 rankings of the Azure Emperor Proclamation shouldn't be a problem, so he didn't plan on competing with the other geniuses. After all, if he went out, Huangfu Wuji and Grand Lily would probably catch wind of this. Although his injuries were healed, his strength was still insufficient. There was no need for him to go out and attract attention. Chapter 7:11. Ranking of the 9 counties. Time flew by quickly. There was only a month left before the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram closed. During this month, the geniuses in the Heart of Darkness went crazy. If they wanted to enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings, they had to fight with their lives on the line and obtain as many imprints as possible. Otherwise, they would still be eliminated in the end. This month was the most intense month of competition. Almost every place in the Heart of Darkness had intense fights. The losers would either be killed or discard their imprints and be eliminated. On the other hand, the top 10 monstrous geniuses of the previous Green Emperor leaderboard had ceased their activities in the last month. They had already collected enough seals in the past 2 months, so there was no need for them to compete for more seals. Those who were fighting for the imprints were basically those who weren't ranked very high, or those who had just risen up. When a month passed and there was only 1 day left, the number of cultivators left in the Heart of Darkness dwindled. There were less than 200 of them left. On the last day, Zhuowen, who was in the cave at the bottom of the underground river, silently opened his eyes. At this moment, the aura around his body had reached its peak. The nascent soul in his right hand, which was originally several feet large, had shrunk to half its original size. Rumble! A terrifying aura surged out from Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen slowly raised his head. His eyes shone brightly, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He had successfully broken through to the ultimate 7 Wheels Emperor realm. All that was left was to wait for the 7 wheels of heaven and earth tribulation. Above the underground river, countless dark clouds slowly gathered. They were like black dragons that covered the entire sky. Lightning flashed between the clouds like pythons as a terrifying heavenly aura slowly descended. To Zhuowen, the 7 rounds of heaven and earth tribulation lightning tribulations weren't difficult at all. This was especially so after Zhuowen's great son Nirvana had broken through to the 2nd level. With the strength of his physical body, he didn't fear the lightning tribulations at all. Rumble! Bolts of lightning struck down from the dark clouds and drilled into the dark river, bombarding Zhuowen, who was hiding in the cliff at the bottom of the dark river. Suddenly, the entire cliff shattered into pieces, revealing Zhuowen's figure. At the bottom of the river, Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the lightning bolts that were rushing towards him. He was not afraid at all. He stretched out his right hand, and golden light covered his body. He directly grabbed the lightning bolts in his hand, and with a clench of his fist, the lightning bolts shattered into nothingness. Boom! Boom! Bolts of lightning came crashing down. Zhuowen did not have any defensive measures. He simply waved his hand and annihilated the bolts of lightning into nothingness. Zhuowen's physical body was too strong. Even though these thunderbolts were extremely powerful, they still couldn't hurt Zhuowen in the slightest. There were a total of 49 lightning strikes, and the last one was the most powerful. Furthermore, it was not an ordinary light blue lightning, but a strange purple lightning. The power of this last purple lightning was extremely terrifying. Even Zhuowen had to arrange the greater limitless sword array around his body in order to barely block this purple lightning. When the last purple lightning was annihilated, Zhuowen stomped his foot and leapt up from the bottom of the dark river. landing on the bank of the dark river. His eyes flashed with a bright light. He had finally broken through to the ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm. With his spear intent, Zhuowen no longer feared Huang Fuwuji. Peng, peng, peng. Not long after Zhuowen successfully crossed the tribulation, the entire peach blossom origin diagram was filled with the sound of breaking air. All of the martial artists in the heart of darkness looked up at the sky. They were stunned to find that above the void, there were actually countless white pillars of light. The white pillars of light filled every corner of the heart of darkness. Wherever there were martial artists, the white pillars of light would sweep towards them. A pillar of light passed through the cliff and swept towards the dark river. At this moment Zhuowen, who was standing on the bank, was caught off guard and was immediately hit by this pillar of light. Zhuowen did not overreact. The moment the pillar of light swept into his body, he only felt a trace of warmth. At the same time, an oppressive voice sounded in his mind. Martial artists in the peach blossom origin diagram. The trial of the peach blossom origin diagram has come to an end. This emperor will now teleport everyone out. Do not resist. The owner of this majestic voice was the Azure Emperor. Zhuowen did not resist, allowing the power of the pillar of light to pull him out of the peach blossom origin diagram. Whoosh! The pillars of light that flew into the heart of darkness rose into the sky at the same time, disappearing in the blink of an eye. When Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, what appeared in front of him was a large square made of white marble. At the end of the square was an extremely majestic palace. It was the Golden Imperial Palace. At this moment, in front of the Golden Imperial Palace, there was a row of long tables. On the tables, the Azure Emperor and the other almighty experts were all sitting, their gazes focused on the returning geniuses in the square. There is still half a day left before the 1-year period ends. Since the Azure Emperor has already teleported us out, it can only mean that the heart of darkness has already filtered out only 100 geniuses. Looking around at the similarly confused faces of the surrounding geniuses, Zhuowen discovered that the number of geniuses that had appeared in the square was just over 100. The trial of the peach blossom origin diagram did not necessarily have to end after a year. If the numerous geniuses that had entered the peach blossom origin diagram had been eliminated in advance, and there were just 100 geniuses left, the Azure Emperor would have ended the trial of the peach blossom origin diagram. Zhuowen, you are indeed fine. 2 crisp voices sounded out. Qing Lian and Luo Xing immediately saw Zhuowen and hurried to Zhuowen's side, their beautiful faces filled with joy. They never thought that Zhuowen would actually be able to successfully escape from Huang Fuwuji's hands. It seemed that Zhuowen was much stronger than they had imagined. Zhuowen smiled and nodded. Zhuowen was not surprised that Qing Lian and Luo Xing had entered the top 100. After all, the two of them had close to 100 imprints on them. As long as the two of them paid attention and did not rashly fight others, it would be very easy for them to last until the end. Of the top 100 geniuses, besides the 3 of them from Wuxia County, Lve Tao had also successfully entered. However, what surprised Zhuowen was that Ling Wushuang, who was not particularly strong, had also entered the top 100. Zhu Qi, who did not have much of a relationship with Zhuowen, had also smoothly entered the top 100. Besides Zhu Qi, there were 2 other geniuses from the house of Marquis Qin that had also entered the top 100. In other words, there were 8 geniuses from Wuxia County that had entered the top 100. This number was already very good, and it was even possible for them to enter the top 3 of the Battle of the 9 Counties. What's going on? How come that boy Zhuowen didn't die? Even Grand Lily made a move, but she still didn't manage to kill him? Not too far away, Huang Fuwuji also noticed the figure of Zhuowen that had appeared in the top 100. He frowned. He was well aware of Grand Lily's strength. Killing Zhuowen should have been an easy matter for her. On the other side, Grand Lily also noticed the lively Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes couldn't help but shrink as her eyebrows furrowed together. He actually didn't die after falling off the cliff. This Zhuowen's life is really great. However, once the ranking tournament begins, his luck will not be so good. Her beautiful eyes narrowed. Grand Lily's face was filled with a dark chill. She had to thoroughly eradicate this boy Zhuowen. Not only because Zhuowen had the marriage contract, but also because Zhuowen had spoken rudely to her many times in the heart of darkness. Just this point alone was enough for Grand Lily to sentence Zhuowen to death in her heart. Zhuowen also noticed Huang Fuwuji and Grand Lily's unfriendly gazes. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a cold smile. Even if these two didn't look for him, he, Zhuowen, would look for them. If it weren't for Huang Fuwuji and Grand Lily, then Zhuowen wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state in the heart of darkness. He had even narrowly escaped death. The Battle of the 9 Counties has come to an end. Congratulations to those who entered the top 100. You will have the opportunity to enter the Azure Emperor list and become the new top 100 geniuses of the Azure Emperor list. At the center of the table, the Azure Emperor slowly stood up, a warm smile on his face like a spring breeze. The Battle of the 9 Counties has come to an end. Now, this emperor will announce the final rankings of the 9 counties. The rankings are based on the number of geniuses that have entered the Azure Emperor list. The greater the number, the higher the ranking. As soon as the Azure Emperor said this, the other almighties on the table nodded. In fact, they already knew in their hearts how many geniuses had been selected. After all, the 100 people had appeared before them. They all knew how many geniuses under their command had been selected. Among them, the one with the ugliest expression was the Lifire County Lord Flamewing. His Lifire County's geniuses had almost been completely annihilated. Even the number 1 genius, young Master Lai Yin, had been killed. Without a doubt, the Lifire County was at the bottom of the rankings. Many of the supreme elders on the table looked at Flamewing with ridicule in their eyes. Among them, the proudest one was naturally Lu Hantian. At the beginning, Flamewing had been so arrogant in front of him. Lu Hantian had long since founded an eyesore. Fortunately, Zhuowen had fought for him and exterminated all the geniuses of the Lifire County, restoring the dignity of the Muqing County. First place is the Imperial Capital County. There are a total of 56 geniuses that have entered the Azure Emperor list. As the Azure Emperor spoke, everyone remained silent. The Imperial Capital County was the leader of the 9 counties. Among them, the 5 great clans, Azure Dragon Branch Temple, and the Imperial family were all forces that were not weaker than the county lords. In fact, they were even more terrifying than some of the county lords. The Imperial Capital County had many talents and was much stronger than the other 8 counties. Therefore, no one was too surprised that more than half of the geniuses had entered the Azure Emperor list. Second place Muqing County, 8 geniuses entered. As soon as he said this, many people around looked at Lu Hantian in surprise. This time, Muqing County was really proud and elated. They had improved so much. They had directly gone from the second last place in the last competition to the second place in this competition. Of course, Muqing County's achievements were mostly due to Zhuowen's efforts. Chapter 712. Rainbow Essence Soul Stone. The Azure Emperor stared at Flamewing's departing figure and didn't say anything. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen, who was standing in the middle of the plaza. Zhuowen was getting more and more interesting. It was not simple to be able to make the Lihua County so miserable. The results of the 9 counties ranking are out. Next up is the Azure Emperor leaderboard ranking battle that everyone is looking forward to. The Lotus Emperor stood up slowly, and his clear voice resounded throughout the entire square. It was like thunder, enlightening everyone. Hearing this, all the geniuses in the square looked at Emperor Qing with great anticipation. Many of them did not care about the top 100 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. What they cared about was the ranking battle that the Lotus Emperor mentioned. I have promised that I will personally enlighten the top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. The top 5 will each receive a heaven-ranked spiritual treasure and the right to participate in the entrance test of Jiaxin Academy. The top 3 will receive all the rewards, and I will personally confer them the title of Marquis. They will enjoy supreme status and glory. The corners of the Lotus Emperor's mouth curled up as he felt the burning gazes from the crowd. He announced the rewards of the ranking battle to the public. Whoosh! A wave of discussion broke out in the square. The genius's eyes were filled with anticipation. The Lotus Emperor's rewards were too generous. They were so generous that they were overwhelmed with excitement. The empowerment of an imperial power realm expert. It is said that this kind of enlightenment does not have any side effects and can increase one's cultivation level by 100%. If one's cultivation level reaches the ultimate 9-wheel Emperor realm, he can definitely advance to the Xuanzuan realm with the Lotus Emperor's enlightenment. That's right. Let's see if we can enter the top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. This is a rare opportunity. Difficult. The current top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard are all monstrous geniuses. It will be harder than ascending to heaven to shake their positions. Many of the geniuses in the square were in high spirits. However, there were also many who shook their heads and sighed. They knew that it would be difficult for them to enter the top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. The ranking tournament will be held in 3 months. The location will be in the plaza of the throne room. I hope that everyone can use these 3 months to properly consolidate their cultivation. With that, Emperor Qing flicked his sleeves, turned around, and entered the throne room alone without any hesitation. Above the throne room, Mu Shui and Elder Qiu stood quietly on the huge vermilion bird, overlooking the many geniuses in the square below. Miss Zhuowen's talent was indeed not bad, and his progress was also quite fast. However, with his current strength, it's a little difficult for him to enter the top 5 of the Azure Emperor leaderboard. Elder Qiu shook his head. Elder Qiu, you are wrong. He has great potential. He is a carp that has yet to transform into a dragon. All he needs is an opportunity, and Zhuowen will transform into a dragon one day. And that day won't be too far away. Mu Shui gently brushed aside the messy hair on her forehead as her beautiful eyes stared at the figure below. Her voice was as clear as a lark. Even if this child enters the top 5 of the Azure Emperor leaderboard, not just anyone can pass the entrance test of the Divine Academy. Only those monstrous geniuses in the Eastern lands have a chance of passing the entrance test. In my opinion, in the entire Qingxian Empire, only the first prince Huangfu Wudao has a slight chance of passing the entrance test of the Divine Academy. As for the others, the chances are too low. Elder Qiu shook his head. He was still not very optimistic about Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's progress was indeed fast, his cultivation was still too low. Not to mention Mu Shui. He was not even comparable to the weakest genius of the Divine Academy. Elder Qiu, when we return, go to the Drunken Spring Pavilion on my behalf, and give this item to Zhuowen. Mu Shui's beautiful eyes flickered as she stretched out her slender, jade-like hand. In the center of her flawless palm, a 7-colored crystal had unknowingly appeared. It flickered with a rather gorgeous 7-colored light. 7-colored soul essence stone. Miss, you actually want to give this item to that brat Zhuowen? This is absolutely not possible. This old man cannot agree. Looking at the 7-colored crystal in Mu Shui's palm, Elder Qiu's expression changed greatly. There was a trace of shock and anger in his voice. He was very clear about how important this 7-colored soul essence stone was to Mu Shui. Elder Qiu, don't tell me you won't even listen to my words? Mu Shui's beautiful face that was as calm as water finally revealed a trace of a strange expression. Her voice contained a trace of displeasure. But Elder Qiu still wanted to say something. But unfortunately, he was rudely interrupted by Mu Shui. No buts. I've already made up my mind. If you won't give it to him, then I will, Mu Shui said coldly. Sigh. This old man will send it to the Drunken Spring Pavilion tonight. With a low sigh, Elder Qiu finally compromised. He was very clear about Mu Shui's stubborn character. She would definitely not change her mind once she had decided on something. Elder Qiu, thank you very much this time. Seeing that Elder Qiu had agreed, Mu Shui's voice became much gentler. This matter has been settled. Let's return first. When night falls, this old man will personally make a trip to the Drunken Spring Pavilion. Elder Qiu nodded. With a wave of his sleeve, he directed the vermilion bird to leave the throne room. On the square, after the Azure Emperor left, the various almighties on the table walked into the square, and came to the side of their respective subordinates. Zhuowen, what you did this time was really satisfying. When you killed young Master Lai Yun, the expression on Flaming Flame's face was extremely interesting. As soon as Lu Hantian arrived at the square, he put his arm around Zhuowen's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. Lu Hantian, who was behind Lu Nantian, was also full of smiles. In the previous War of the Nine Counties, their Muqing County had been targeted by the Lihua County. Almost all of their troops had been annihilated. The two counties could be said to be feuds. This time, Zhuowen had domineeringly killed young Master Lai Yun and the other geniuses of the Lifire Prefecture, ruthlessly ruining the prestige of the Lifire Prefecture. Lu Nantian was secretly delighted in his heart, and the more he looked at Zhuowen, the more pleasing he felt to the eye. At this moment, Lve Tao had also gathered beside Zhuowen. He naturally knew nothing about Zhuowen killing the geniuses of the Lihua County. However, from Lu Hantian's words, he knew the whole story. Zhuowen, did you really kill young Master Lai Yun of the Lihua County? Lve Tao was still in disbelief. Sir Lai Yun was ranked above him, and his strength had reached the late stage of the six-wheel emperor realm. He was extremely powerful. Although Lve Tao admitted that Zhuowen was very powerful, he should not be so ridiculously powerful that even Sir Lai Yun had been killed. Young Master Lai Yun was indeed killed by Zhuowen. Also, Zhuowen's current cultivation is extremely high. He's already at the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. In the heart of darkness, even when Aoshua avoided him. Zhuowen hadn't spoken when Luo Xing, who stood by his side, spoke before him, and her beautiful eyes carried a wisp of burning desire. Until now, the scene of Zhuowen killing the geniuses of the Lihua County, killing young Master Lai Yun, and forcing Wen Aoshua to retreat for the extreme violet ice grass was deeply imprinted in Luo Xing's mind. Originally, Luo Xing had a rather good impression of Zhuowen, coupled with the fact that he had obtained the extreme violet ice grass for her in the heart of darkness. And when she thought of Zhuowen's powerful figure, Luo Xing worshipped Zhuowen. Seeing Luo Xing's appearance, Lve Tao smiled bitterly. With his keen insight, he could naturally see that Luo Xing's attitude towards Zhuowen was not ordinary. She had probably already fallen in love with Zhuowen. However, what shocked Lve Tao even more was Zhuowen's cultivation. Before entering the peach blossom origin diagram, Zhuowen's cultivation had clearly been on par with his, but now it had far surpassed his. In the peach blossom origin diagram, Lve Tao's cultivation had naturally improved as well. He had reached the mid-stage of the ultimate emperor realm, but compared to Zhuowen, he paled in comparison. The peak of the ultimate emperor realm, coupled with Zhuowen's own comprehension of spear intent. No wonder young Master Lai Yun had been defeated by Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not say anything. If they knew that his true cultivation had actually reached the level of the ultimate emperor realm, who knew what Lve Tao and the others would think? This time, I really have to hand it to you. Zhuowen, with your strength, you probably have a very good chance of entering the top 10 of the Azure Emperor rankings this time. Lve Tao took a deep breath and revealed a scholarly smile. He looked at Zhuowen with a sincere gaze and smiled. Top 10 of the Azure Emperor rankings? That's overestimating this little bastard. As soon as Lve Tao said this, an untimely voice immediately rang out from behind. Following that, a black-clothed youth with a cold expression walked over with a group of people. Zhuowen turned his head and immediately saw this group of people. However, his gaze was not focused on the black-clothed young man in the lead. Instead, it was focused on the figure walking beside the young man. He saw that the person's right arm was empty. He only had one arm left. Feng Xiang? Looks like the punishment of only cutting off one arm was too light. The one-armed youth walking beside the black-clothed youth was Feng Xiang from the Feng clan, who had a conflict with Zhuowen at the appraisal hall. The identity of this group of people was naturally unknown. They were from the Feng clan, one of the 5 great clans. As soon as Zhuowen said this, Feng Xiang's expression froze. His eyes were filled with hatred. He would never forget what had happened at the appraisal hall that day. Feng Xiang was a genius of the Feng clan. However, in front of everyone, he had lost an arm to an unknown youth. He had been utterly humiliated. During the Battle of the 9 Counties, Zhuowen's stunning performance had naturally been witnessed by him. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's terrifying strength. He had not lost unjustly back then. Even so, Feng Xiang's hatred for Zhuowen grew even more intense. The hatred of losing an arm was absolutely irreconcilable. Feng Xiang simply could not swallow this anger. Fortunately, he was very close to Feng Yong. After some exaggeration, Feng Yong had finally decided to stand up for him. This made him fearless. Zhuowen, don't be too arrogant. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want in the Imperial City? I'm afraid you're not qualified. Feng Xiang gathered his courage and said coldly, looks like cutting off one arm is still too little. Your other arm is also an eyesore. Why don't I cut it off for you as well? At least it will look more symmetrical. Zhuowen's gaze gradually turned cold. He stomped his foot and stared coldly at Feng Xiang. The latter could not help but tremble, and involuntarily take 2 steps back. Zhuowen's words had actually caused Feng Xiang to retreat in fear. Feng Xiang's reaction immediately attracted many disdainful gazes from the crowd. Feng Xiang felt his cheeks burning as he felt these gazes. You dare to be so arrogant after injuring someone from the Feng clan. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.